All right, there will be bourbon. There will be Braxton again. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. How are you?
I'm good. Braxton's in the mobile studio. Before we get him into a little bit more of this conversation, first, there's two things. Please like and subscribe to the video. Do that for me. And if you're on the podcast streaming version, like and give ratings and all that good stuff as well. But also, as always, this discussion will be fueled by America's native spirit, bourbon. And Braxton technically bought this bottle that I'm going to be consuming tonight. He doesn't know it yet, but he did. And it's Baker's 7. All right. It's from a wonderful distillery. You all know Jim Beam. It is one of their small batch products. It's now a single barrel, 7-year age stated bourbon. It's 107 proof. It is absolutely delicious. It's one of the few things I think is very underrated, easy to find, even in this state of Virginia, where there's really odd laws about how they go about supplying alcohol. But it's great. Highly recommend it. And now that we've got that out of the way, we go back to the mobile studio, and there's Braxton. How we doing, brother?
Man, I'm all right. I'm doing good. Just slaving away.
Are you? What do you? What?
Oh, it's just random work. I'm rebuilding the steering on this truck right now. I broke a drag link in half, and I ended up having to just rebuild the entire steering assembly. So,
That sounds exciting. It is Mustache May, so I'm trying to join up with Braxton. You can look on the video,
yeah.
you'll see that he's clearly got a head start on me, but we'll get there. So this is it's I every few years it seems like I bring you on and have a good chat, and it's been a while since the last time you were on, but the timing has been kind of funny because I know you were out for a little bit, but then you came back, and there's all sorts of uh, Twitter engagements you find yourself in as of recent. And I mean, we get into the trade tech stuff, but that's not even the funniest part. The funniest thing was last night. If we were going to talk, it would have been centered around because I caught it kind of late myself. I don't really now. I don't really get the chance to partake in Twitter during the day. I just kind of catch up at night. But are you following this whole Heckler and Koch thing?
Yeah, man. Kind of. I was. I saw. I mean, I honestly getting to the point where the company drama stuff, as
Yeah.
long as it's not something over the top, like Ford painting a truck rainbow colored or whatever, I pretty much just ignore it. But I did see, and I don't know if you saw the Heckler and Koch, they HK,
Oh
they
gosh.
I don't know if they fired, I don't know if they fired that lady or what, but they put a post out and said they removed her from that position anyway. And
Oh, I didn't see
uh yeah, they did, and they said it was actually a pretty good tweet. I thought it was said something like rules were broken, um and we don't engage in identity politics, and changes have been made, something like that. And you could tell it was written by a man because it was terse. That's my
it.
favorite part.
But no, it's good
So,
because you brought up kind of my point. This is in my notes here. It's like, do we really care that much about products unless it's just like over the top? Like, we had the Bud Light thing. We've had other stuff in the past. It's like, there's very few things I'm going to change my opinion on in terms of whether I want to use the product on, unless it's, kind of what you said. Like, is this just some over the top thing that I really just can't get behind? Or do people just like what they like?
yeah, I think the Bud Light one is a good example though, because it was absurd on multiple levels. I mean, clearly Troons are not the customer base of Bud Light, right? So what are we even doing here? And then the way they kept trying to kind of skirt around it and just pretend like it was going to go away, that was stupid too. They didn't do like what HK did. HK's, they weren't even, it wasn't even nearly as egregious, I didn't think. I mean, it was annoying and just kind of petty feminism shit, but it wasn't like trying to trans your kids, which is something people should care about,
Mm-hmm.
um and get upset about. So and anyway, and they did the right thing, and in my opinion they should be forgiven. But the Bud Light thing, that's totally different, and now they're actually feeling it. It's hard to know
Yeah.
how much money they've actually lost or will lose. I mean, I'm seeing people say all kinds of numbers, but I mean, I don't know that you really know that yet. But clearly it impacted them. because they just released like a camouflage beer bottle, like they're trying to win people back over.
That should do it.
I don't know. I know people aren't drinking it out here. And so I
Yeah,
think it's good. The right has finally got like a win. So I don't want to like rip the wind out of anybody's sails on that. I think it's a great thing.
that's a fair point. And I did see, and again, it kind of goes to what you're saying. You never really know the timing of it, but I thought it was either coincidental because I don't think they could produce something that quickly, looking as slick as it did. Like a few days later, they were running that ad to like an ode to the national American man who's just all about doing shit like you do on a daily basis. Did you see that ad that kind of came out around the same time?
I did, and I just because I spent a little bit of time kind of in those circles for a minute. What often happens at companies that are that big is the marketing team will come up with several packages, and
Right.
then one of them will just get rubber stamped by a VP and whoever else. Sometimes, I mean, I would think an ad campaign like that, if it didn't actually get run up to the CEO, that would really surprise me. But so I would imagine that ad was already
Right.
one of the packages that they just didn't use.
That seems right because and it is a good point. Do you think this is because I mean they're not even owned by an American company anymore, so that's why I find it coincidental with the whole HK thing. Is again another company from Europe, because you never really know from our side is this how big this same sort of I guess phenomena that we're seeing. I know you said the Troon, but it's just like everything as far extreme as possible, as overt as possible here in the States. And I don't know if we're seeing that in Europe. I know you're not seeing it in Asia, but I'm
Right.
just curious if that's something they're specifically marketing to us, if they're getting pressure to market that to us, or if that's just hey, this is legit how they want to run their business.
It's definitely worse here. I know it's happening for sure in Europe to some degree. I talk to some European, people every
Yeah.
once in a while. It's worse here, and it started here. This is a thing that Americans have got to wrap their heads around. It's fun to blame the French and all of that. I enjoy it. It's just shit talk bants.
Yeah.
But it really started here in America. 100% it did. All of this stuff really is an outgrowth of like deconstructionalism, John Dewey type shit. And yeah, we invented it. And another thing that I think I've said this in public before, but a lot of people don't realize uh, this whole comedians coming out and saying how I can't believe this actually happened in comedy. This shit was going on in comedy back in 2010, 11, 100%. They were all of this. You had to have just check all the diversity boxes for each show. People like Bill Burr weren't
Mm-hmm.
experiencing that because they were bigger acts.
Right.
But all the smaller acts, it was happening a long time ago. So it's been festering in that kind of art world for quite some time here in America. I mean, it started here.
When you say the comedy acts, what do you mean? Like in terms of putting that in their actual show or having openers,
Yeah.
or what do you
So
mean?
what happens is if you're somebody like Bill Burr, or now Bill Burr wasn't that big 10 years ago, but he was still
Right.
big
Yeah,
enough.
he was on his way.
Yeah, if you're one of those kind of guys, you set the terms of a show as a headliner. But if
Okay.
you're a young guy that's coming up, you don't. The
Right.
club or the owner of a lot of times these things are in bars or
Yeah.
nightclubs or shit like that. They have like all the say. They're just paying you to be there. You might get to pick your feature. In fact, I was always
Okay.
able to pick a feature or was picked as a feature by somebody else. But that's about where it ends. You really don't have that much control unless you're putting the show on yourself. The bigger acts are putting the show on the set. Like let's say Rogan when he tours, he
Yeah.
takes his opener and middle and all that with him. He's not trusting the local
Yeah. He
club.
takes
He doesn't do
his
clubs,
friends.
but
Right. Right.
yeah, he's not like trusting them to put some new guy on his show. It doesn't happen. So they're not going to be impacted by the stuff that's happening at the kind of the ground level of the art. You know what I mean?
That is because I and most people wouldn't think of this, but you bring up comedy, and it's something that you know you can't DEI yourself into comedy and being successful, right? You're either funny or you're not,
Right.
Right. In a
Right.
lot of the ways, I equate that to baseball is a sport I always go back to, because you can either play the sport or you can't. Right, at a certain level.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
This with your daughter now going through softball, and yeah, you can have outreach programs and do all this stuff, but at the end of the day, can you play or not? Are you funny or not? Do people laugh when you're on stage or not? So
Right.
I find that interesting that you brought that up, because people at that point, the pinnacle of entertainment, you're talking about Burr, you're talking about, Rogan and all these guys, where they can kind of, I don't know if they're, I mean, Rogan for sure, kind of call their own shots or whatever, but it brings up something I saw. I was in a hotel a few weeks back, and I was watching, as I was getting ready to check out, I was watching like a rerun of Bill Maher on HBO. And he was talking about why we can't make certain movies today. And I say this all the time. You probably have too, like, because you're not much younger than I am, but you grew up in a time where like movies from the 80s that you're like, holy shit, you couldn't make that today. And his whole point was, well, why the fuck not?
Yeah.
But it's true. Like, there's
It
so
is
much
true.
stuff like from the 80s and 90s, these movies that you could. Stripes is a perfect example. Can you imagine
It,
making Stripes today? Like, with
no.
all the shit in the military period, let alone the actual comedy side of it, with, and the irony of Ukraine where they end up at the end. But it's just,
I forgot it was Ukraine.
yeah,
That's
it's in
right.
fucking Ukraine.
Yeah.
Blazing Saddles, another one. Like,
Oh, geez,
all
no
of
way.
the Police Academy movies, fucking Revenge of the Nerds, all of the, like, Animal House, all these things from the 80s where it was just constantly pushing boundaries and making people laugh at the absurdity of some of the shit that was right in front of them. And now it's like, oh, you are the world's largest bigot, and people back down constantly from it. And I'm curious what your thought is as to how we've gotten to that point. And at some point, do you think, because you would hope that eventually the pendulum swings back, I keep banking on that, but where do you think we're at on both of those accounts?
Well, to address the first point, you don't even got to go back to the 80s. You couldn't make a show from the early 2000s or even maybe even,
Remember Kids in the Hall?
2010. Dude, I had never seen Sopranos. I
Right.
know.
Yeah, I was going to get to that on with you as
When
well.
I told Tap, he was like, "Have you heard about the Berlin Wall?" you know, like, listen, I know I'm way behind on this, okay, but there's no way. There's so much shit in that movie that you absolutely could not pull off today without getting a lot of sort of pushback, back pressure. You could still do it. Bill Burr's right. Just do it and tell him to fuck off. That's my opinion. But
You hope.
but you would get a lot of, people would flip. Now, as to how we got here the same way Bud Light got to where Bud Light is at. All of these kids, like, go to any college and look at who is graduating from the marketing department or the marketing programs. It's all white girls. So all these companies are hiring, white or whitish girls, urban girls that come from middle class families that have this idea that they're gonna like somehow repent for fucking racism of their great whoever, by making the world right, so they're seizing control of whatever mechanisms they can, and they're sort of foisting their will upon the rest of the country, and they're finally getting some pushback for it. But ultimately, that's what's going on in Hollywood. That's what's going on at Ford. That's what's, it ain't some Italian guy, like from Newark sitting in the marketing department at Ford. It's some girl from, a rich suburb of whichever city, or wealthier suburb of whichever city that went through Columbia and, kind of had things handed to her because we've got all these stupid DEI initiatives that have been in place forever. It's not new. All the shit,
Right.
it just has a name now. And they've made their way up to VP. Like the Bud Light lady, she was like 40 or something, you know?
Yeah.
She's
Well,
not
I mean,
old.
but someone's hiring them, right? And someone's giving
Yeah,
them
yeah.
the opportunity to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I
Well,
mean,
then they can't, you can't pass them over for promotion because you've got all these stupid regulations and shit where she can go cry that she got passed over for being a woman. And, it's basically rules and regs and laws have kind of ripped meritocracy out from underneath everything in this country at this point, outside of small business.
yeah. Well, the things I said, like, certain aspects with sports, comedy, I used to say music, but you don't have to be talented to make it in music anymore. Right?
No,
We know,
definitely not. Yeah.
yeah, we
No.
know that.
Or comedy.
Yeah, I mean,
You got
I'll defer
that
to you on
Hannah
that.
bitch.
No, I don't
That
really. I mean,
Hannah
I don't.
something.
Hannah, shit. Anyway, it's not Hannah. Why am I thinking Hannah Storm? That's not. It can't be.
It's like I don't remember, like Hannah. It might as well be Hannah Bates as far as I'm
The
concerned. But
only
it's
funny
like
woman that I ever remember growing up in comedy, I thought Paula Poundstone used to make me laugh. Do you remember her?
I don't.
Paula Poundstone, she was like 90s, kind of had like black hair, kind of chopped off looking. She looked like the lady from what's that Bob's Burgers show? That's I don't even watch that shit, but I see that lady
Okay.
that's always doing like the dance and shit. I'm like, reminds me of
Okay.
Paula Poundstone. She was a lot of Comedy Central stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, but it's got to end at some point, right? Like at some point, because I put this out on there was that picture or there's something on Twitter, a video of all these parents taking their kids to these fucking drag shows and shit. And to me, I think if you bring a toddler or a kid who's in the single digits in age to a drag show or some sort of drag convention, I genuinely think that's fucking child abuse.
Yeah, me too. Yep,
So
absolutely. Of
my
course it
question
is.
is, yeah. So my question is, what's the next step for a society that just openly condones child abuse? Like it's got to
Oh,
swing back at some point, right? Does it not?
well, we hope, but I've been hearing my whole life that the pendulum's going to swing back the other way, and it
Yeah.
it hasn't. That or it's a long ass stroke the one way, before it comes
Yeah, I
back.
mean, time is, I mean, you're a smart guy. You've read a lot of history. Like, it's weird to see one of the accounts. I don't know if you follow them on Twitter. Do you follow that account, The Cultural Tutor?
I don't know.
Okay, I'll send you a link after this, but I would highly recommend you check it out because he just is very good. It's no, there's no skew to politics or anything. It's just like, hey, this is how he picks something throughout history and he just breaks it down into a series of tweets, and you really learn a lot. But man, it is crazy to realize that you and I are describing something that's taken place in our lifetimes, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are we on the blip of history, man? Like
Right.
40 years, that's nothing. Like you go back to some of the stuff that people have been dealing with, and it's probably not new, but what also isn't new is that I don't know who thinks it genuinely, but if we're going to be blindly assuming that, America is going to be the one great society that somehow doesn't have or suffers some downfall, I think we're kidding ourselves, aren't we?
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I mean, the nations collapse. It's what they do. I mean, they have a life cycle. I don't know where we're at in that life cycle, but yeah, definitely. Yeah, I saw a tweet just recently said we're actually now spending more to service the debt than we spend on our national defense.
That's odd.
Um, that seems like a pretty strong indicator that things are not good. Um, yeah, and especially you've got a recession on the horizon that everybody knows is coming. GDP is going to drop, and you're already struggling to service your debt as it is. I mean, it seems like trouble, but I don't want to sit here and pretend to be an economist. That just seems
Yeah.
bad to me.
I mean, it does seem like, well, that's recent in
Yeah.
terms of
Oh
history.
yeah.
Like, I mean, like Clinton left office with a balanced budget for most accounts, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
here we are in
Mm-hmm.
2023. He left in 2001. I mean, both
Yeah.
parties are complicit in this, but that's kind of like we did this to ourselves.
Yeah. If you look at it, an interesting thing that I had pointed out to me, I think it was last year that I had never realized, but it seems to be true. If you look at throughout the last 40 years or so, we actually spend less under. Now it's going to be different. Everything's going to be turned over because of Biden and the war in Ukraine and all of that. But we actually historically spend less under a Democrat president
I mean,
over the course of like my lifetime, and it's not because the Democrat president doesn't want to spend money. It's because the Republicans just tell him to piss off.
yeah,
You know,
but they don't do
so
that to
it's
their own party.
Right, exactly. Yeah, once they're in, they're happy to spend. I mean, look how much Trump spent with COVID. I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, but I mean, we always say like the Republicans are supposed to be the party of small government. It's done nothing but grow in the Republican presidents in my lifetime and yours.
Totally,
Right?
totally.
And
Yeah,
we can thank Bush for a few things.
yeah. I mean, the Patriot Act for one. You know,
Department of Homeland Security, TSA, all these wonderful inventions that are never going away.
yeah. DHS. Yeah, like you
Yeah.
said. What was there was another one just
Trump gave
recently.
us the Space Force. Like, okay, that was necessary, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many freaking satellites up there. At some point, someone's gonna start shooting that shit down. You know, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, if I get a rail gun in space that can like drop a giant piece of titanium rod on somebody or something, I'm all right with that. You know, that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I do. As long as it's never in the hands of somebody like fucking John Bolton. You know,
Oh God, yeah. He
that would
guy
be a
just
problem.
won't go away. Like he still just keeps finding a way to pop up. And man, men like that guy just really make my skin crawl. They really do, man. Like
Yeah.
those are the ones that I just wish there was a better option. And they always find themselves in a position to either, advise or affect policy. And that sucks.
Yeah, I think one of the scariest things, man, is and I tweeted this right at the start of the election, but I still believe it's true. What do you think's going to happen when the people who are in power are convinced that World War II is actually what drug us out of the Great Depression, and they look at they start forecasting on our economy, and they see a potential it absolutely could end up in a depression. Easily. Um, we're already in shrinkflation mode and all of that, So, yeah, dude. That scares the shit out of me because, I mean, let's be real. Both parties would love nothing more than for this war to continue and escalate and for us to be putting troops over there. They would love that. They don't dare say it out loud, but they would love it. If we could just send a couple divisions over there, Um,
Yeah,
yeah, that worries me a
two was
lot.
largely a draft, though. I mean, we live in that era now where we're all volunteer force. We don't have the people to support something like that without
Oh, they,
without conscription.
yeah, I mean, I
I
don't think
mean,
they would
does
have a
this look like
problem
a
with.
country that's ready to just, hey, I guess we'll go along with the draft? I mean, we thought Vietnam was bad.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, did you see that they said there will be no troon exemption for conscription?
I didn't see
They did, dude.
that word just cracks me up.
I know, I like that one. This was just like a couple of weeks ago. I read someone posted a line excuse me, a paragraph where they had said, yeah, the draft is going to go off of your biological sex. So sorry about your luck.
I mean, look, there's parts of me that really because World War I swear I have this conversation every weekend when I'm out, but man, you bring up World War II and you look at our politicians at the time, even if the ones that were like political elites, they were all involved. I mean, look at
Yeah,
baseball. Look at like I guess baseball was the biggest sport back in the time, but and you had men like Ted Williams and these
yeah,
guys. Jackie Robinson was mostly there for he kind of came at the end and he just it's not important. But my point is like those dudes lost years off their primes of their careers to go fight, right? Not just to go hang out, but to go actually fight. Like Ted Williams is a fucking fighter pilot.
yeah.
And
Won a
then
few Bronze Stars, shot some
yeah,
planes down and shit.
right. I mean, and then look at the political figures of that era. George Bush, the Kennedys. Like these guys were actually involved in this stuff and like doing
The
real stuff,
Sorry,
not just hanging out. You know, are we
yeah.
going to get that again? Is AOC going to go volunteer to go be an infantry officer or something? You think we're getting that out of this political class?
Oh Lord, I hope so. Um, uh, yeah, I mean, if you look at the Kennedys as a great example, actually, Joe Kennedy, he wanted his oldest son Joe to be the president, not John, the one
Yeah.
that we got, and Joe got killed, shot down over there, over France, I believe. I can't
Wild.
remember
It was
for sure,
wild.
but
Like that
yeah.
was yeah, we don't live in those times anymore, man. I mean, and it's kind of what do you think of the grandson now with RFK Jr.?
Um,
I haven't had a chance to really listen to him. I know he's gaining some traction, but
Yeah, so during COVID, I started paying more attention to him. He's an interesting guy for
yeah,
sure. I'll be honest, I have a hard time believing somebody with vocal issues like that is actually going to win.
that's what I keep hearing. I haven't heard him actually speak. Is it that bad?
It's pretty bad.
Okay.
Bad enough that Joe Rogan wouldn't even let him on his podcast.
No shit. I know that's the
So
first place I heard it was like his voice kind of sucks, but is that
he
just his
seems
voice or is it a
interesting.
medical thing?
No, he got injured by a vaccine in his
Oh
youth,
shit.
and so his voice like has a real
Never
bad
matured or
tremolo.
something? Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, it vibrates really bad, or not vibrates, kind of has a tremolo thing going on. Interesting guy, terrible thoughts on guns and all kinds of stuff because he's a Democrat, but he's got some things to say that are worth listening to, and he was good on COVID throughout basically the
Yeah.
whole thing, if I'm recalling correctly. I don't remember anything egregious out of him. Um, it would be unfair to say, like, I've seen people, and I don't think this is a fair shot, but I've seen some libertarian people be like, well, he was better on COVID than Trump's. Like, yeah, but he also wasn't in a position to affect any policy.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
pretty easy to be better.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's funny that you mentioned that like his issue is a vocal thing. And by all accounts, I remember, studying this stuff and going through political science courses and all. It's like, yeah, if you go back to the election where Kennedy beat Nixon, it's like it really they tied it to the first like national TV broadcast of the debate where
Yeah,
Kennedy
yeah,
was like this smooth, young looking, good looking dude, and Nixon's up there sweating his ass off, and it turned a lot of people off, right? So that'd be kind
yeah.
of ironic if like it came back full circle and something like that would have impacted someone, in that position. That is kind of interesting.
No, that's a funny angle.
So let's talk Sopranos. You never saw The Sopranos.
No.
You brought because Yellowstone is my biggest issue, man. This last season, I finally had enough. I couldn't after the whole Beth gets arrested in the bar thing for knocking out that chick who hits on Rip. I was just like, all right,
I
there's
didn't
like,
see that.
okay, well that's when I stopped because for whatever reason I don't know what it is, but this whole Taylor Sheridan dude, the writer, I don't know if he's got some obsession with trying to make every female character into like a fucking superhero, but it's not even absurd at this point. It's just whatever comes after absurd is where we're at. And I
Yeah.
feel like they started it in 1883, which is why I couldn't finish that shit. It's like, okay,
Is that
16-year-old girl is just going around killing Indians and shit. It's like, all right, come on.
Oh, yeah, give me a break.
I couldn't watch that show, because I really do appreciate like the time aspect, the timepiece of it. Like visually, it's amazing. And I know Yellowstone kind of came out, and I think you actually might have been the one that told me about it because I didn't really keep up with that shit years ago, and I got into it. But what it's kind of devolved into, I'm just curious what your thoughts are on that whole thing is at this point.
My wife kind of liked it. I kind of begrudgingly watched it for a while. There were parts of it I thought were pretty good for a
Yeah.
minute, and then but this is all in the first season, and then after it just didn't take very long to get annoyed, and not for the reasons that everybody thinks. I mean, I can handle people having no clue how to use a horse, especially start a
Right.
horse, or
They are
I can.
actors at the end of the day, right? We get it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I can just point and laugh at when they are supposed to have a 300,000 acre contiguous ranch and they're running freaking roping cattle on it, instead of like Angus or something. I can, I can get past that kind of stuff. But like to your point, the writing when it becomes, that it's this super badass person, chick it's just give me a break, man. Someone else said this, it's not my line, but if there were so many women Vikings back in the day, then where are all the women linebackers? Which is, to me, it's like just really sums it up nicely.
I see this. It kind of goes with what you're saying. Like, this whole like push for allowing men to compete in women's sports. As what's the word? Troon? Is that what?
Yeah, Troons. Yeah. That's not my word. I got that off the kids on the internet. I just love it.
All right. I'm just look, if we're gonna play the equality game, it goes, I mean, you're right. Because we're doing it in the military, right? We're saying, women can do whatever the men do, and fine, you got to still earn that, right? You got to earn it. But to your point, I mean, I'm a Bears fan, and as bad as they were on defense, I still didn't see any women out there.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I walk to the gym today, and I'm passed by this woman I see every day coming out as I walk in. She's all of 4'10".
Mm-hmm.
And there's this dude coming like a few hundred feet behind her. He's probably like 6'8" and just absolutely jacked.
Yeah.
Like a fucking monster, right? And I'm just like,
mm-hmm.
Man, if there's no bigger dichotomy, and don't get me wrong, there's dudes who are that short, but at the end of the day, they're not going to be competing with him either. So it's just like,
I mean,
why are we forcing this to happen rather than just letting like the best possible physical specimens do what they do?
Well, it's what communists do. They have to destroy stuff first. Their whole idea is destroy everything and start anew and kind of remake the world in my image. And of course, I'm going to do it in such a way that will see me on top of the new system, sort of what commies always do. So it's permeated into everything. But biology will always get a vote. I mean, we both love baseball.
Yeah.
I checked out of MLB when the whole stupid social justice shit started, but I still watch college ball.
Yeah, that's over. You can come back. It's fine.
That would be nice.
Yeah, it's gone, man. It's great. It's
good.
Baseball
shit was. But baseball, it takes a lot of strength. Obviously, you got to be, like you got to be. You don't see a lot of Dustin Pedroias for a reason, right? I mean, most of the guys are big, strong guys.
Jason Altuve, or Jose Altuve.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, even more so him. He's like 5'5" or something.
Yeah, he's a fucking anomaly.
Right, but it's still a skill sport.
Yeah.
Not that football's not, but there's a lot of finesse in baseball, right? Like theoretically, some of these girls could play second base for the Red Sox. Where the hell are they?
Yeah.
I mean, because they can't make it. Dude, I watched college softball with my kid. She likes watching. We enjoy it. It's fun. Fun. Spend some time with my kid, watching her learn, helping her learn some more nuances of the game. And despite what female coaches will tell you, it's still the same game, just with a bigger ball.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's my cousin we were like brother and sister growing up 3 weeks apart. We both pitched in college. She was a stud, much better than I was. But yeah, like.
Yeah, I mean, it's outside of some minor differences like can't steal and some stupid shit like that. Yeah. It's still pretty much the same game. Mm-hmm. Dude, a D3 college girls team. You look at a D3 college girls team and compare that to a D3 college boys team, and it is like watching a high school team compared to watching the Yankees. I mean, it is 100%. Night and day.
100%.
You start like the top 25 teams like Baylor, Oklahoma, those kind of, there's some girls on there that are pretty good athletes. Baylor's got a shortstop that's pretty good athlete. But dude, it is, I mean, it is so, you just almost have to watch it to really see the difference. Cause I think girls would get pretty pissed off hearing this. I don't care. It's true. Like go turn on, I don't know, Southern Utah University versus whoever, men's, and then go watch Southern Utah women's play, whoever, UC Davis or something. Dude, it is freaking.
Well, I think I get what you're saying. And 2 points, right? So I know they made this big deal out of this over the last year, was that girl who was the first Division I baseball player. She played for Brown University or some shit. I don't know if you saw that. And she just resurfaced about a week and a half ago because she threw out the first pitch at a game, and it was awful.
Of course it was. What position did she play at Brown?
She went to pitch. She went to pitch. I can't find any stats on her. I can find her velocity. So what I've
Those are
seen
awesome.
on the what I've seen on the internet is she throws anywhere from 80 to 81.
Bro, that's
Bro,
small high school.
right. So I played in college, not
Right, I
D1,
know.
right? And
Yeah.
um I if on a good day I could touch 88.
Yeah.
On average, you don't throw your mag, you're between 84, 86 or whatever.
Sure.
And, I was nothing fucking special. That's why I'm sitting here talking to you. I didn't retire and go to the Hall of Fame like Zach Greinke, who I got a double off of. What's up? Anyway,
That's awesome.
it is. It is fucking heckled him once in San Francisco, but he's cool.
That's cool.
Overall, he's had the better career, I concede. But,
I
but yeah, I'm like, hold on. Now, Brown University is nothing. I get it. They're D1 just based off of legacy, right? They're not a D1 program, right? You're not going to see them in the College World Series. But I'm like, okay, so
Right.
you made this statement like, oh, we had the first female play Division I baseball, and exactly like what you said, someone throwing 80, 81. Man, even at my high school, that person's getting touched probably for at least 7 or 8 runs. Like that's nothing.
Yep.
That's average. That's an average pitcher.
Yep.
That's
Yeah, bro. I was shortstop, third baseman,
yeah.
and occasionally, you play a tournament, you run out of pitchers, you got to throw an inning or two. I had a terrible curveball, and I could kind of half-ass hold the ball on two seams every once in a while, But
reach
I
back
threw,
and toss one.
yeah, but I threw 80 for sure,
Yeah.
guaranteed.
Yeah.
And I was like the 8th worst pitcher on the team, like by far.
But she's probably at the far end of an outlier for just what a female could probably do velocity.
Oh,
right.
100%. Oh, 100%.
Right. Which, don't get me wrong. Hey, 80 miles an hour, like most people, especially most people listening to this shit, they ain't getting up there and hitting that. But, guys who are going up there and that's their everyday thing, they're going to crush that. They're going to put it 400 feet, especially with a metal bat. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, but my second point to that is that I always wanted to try this. Yeah, I remember saying it in high school because, we had a pretty good high school baseball team. We had a really good high school softball team. Got to college, really, really good college team, really good college softball team. And I always remember thinking like, man, let's just play each other. Like, let's go play a game on the softball field, right? And then let's play a game on the baseball field. And I would bet it would take us longer to adjust to their game than it would for them to adjust to ours, but we would still win both.
Oh,
does that make sense to you?
Oh yeah. You mean because the pitching
those balls
angle
look fucking hard, dude, coming from what is it, 46 feet? Like,
yeah, I think it is 48, maybe something like that. Yeah,
48.
It's short.
And I stood in the plate against my cousin, like she could toss, and I'm like, holy shit.
Yeah. And the release angle is weird.
Coming up instead of down. Like, there's all sorts of weird shit that goes into it.
Yeah. But yeah, dude, once you adjust, you're going to just be raking that all day long. I mean, weird thing about this, I always wondered why they made them use a big ball. I mean, I know it's because theoretically they can't hit, so they need a bigger ball to hit. I know that's like where the ideas originated. But you think if girls have tiny little hands, why do we got a tiny little ball and they got a big old, like what the hell is that? Like, and why do they have to throw underhand? I don't understand that either. Why can't they throw overhand?
Well, what's kind of funny about it is, and I don't know if this was the thought process of the creation of softball, but you may know this just from just the anatomy of human beings. Like, we weren't made to be overhand, right? That's right. A horrible motion. Like, that's why you see spears, all those things, throwing underhand, even like, what is that? A slingshot, same thing, right? You don't do that overhand.
Right.
It's just an unnatural motion. Now you can generate more velocity for sure, but I think maybe because it was safer on the arm, maybe it was like a protective measure. I don't know. It's a great question. I'd probably go deep dive in it as I pass out tonight on bed, but yeah. But then when you think about it, once you're back in the field, none of that happens. Like, you don't throw underhand to first base to hit your cutoff man from the outfield. You still got to fucking launch that thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
I hate it because, dude, I play I don't know if you've seen any of the stupid shit. I've been playing like softball with my gym team in California. Now I'm playing out here. Like, we take that shit serious, but it is weird because I still play short or third base, and a normal throw with a softball, it creates so much different angle. And a baseball, because it is the size, man, you can reach back and launch that thing. You do that with a softball, you're going to put the rotation on. It's going to take it either up.
Yep.
It's a totally different throw. It's a totally different swing. It's a different game, man.
Well, is it slow
Aside from
pitch
the fundamentals, what's that? Yeah, slow pitch.
Yeah, you definitely have to adjust your swing for slow pitch for sure. Yeah. I played some slow pitch for a minute too after I got, a little healthier. And dude, I played the hot corner on our couple of men's teams.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
It's fucking, they rock.
Dude. I had one bad hop in the knee. I swear to you, I thought it broke my kneecap. I walked around for a minute. I was like, holy shit, my leg is broken, like, yeah, those balls get crushed at third base.
They really do. And I don't know if it's like the size of the ball. I know they use different balls and based on the different leagues, whatever, but man, I've been hit by dudes who throw pretty hard just at the batter's box in baseball, and I feel like it definitely hurts more to get hit by a fucking softball.
You think so?
Oh God, man, I took one last season. Like, it was a rocket, like you just described, and I thought I got my glove to it, but I didn't. It hit me on the inside of my leg. I mean, I had a bruise for like 6 months, dude. Before that thing went away.
Oh,
it was ridiculous. The same thing is because, fortunately, it hit me in like the meaty side of my leg, but man, I'd never fought back tears so much about like the shit fucking hurt.
Oh, it does.
And everyone's looking at you, so you can't just be, oh, I'm good.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yeah, 100%. And because it's slow pitch, the ball's always got so much top spin. It's a bitch. Like, every hop's a bad hop. I'm actually glad I'm not playing anymore. To tell you the truth, I'm over it.
Oh, it's too fun, man. It's kind of. I mean, I would assume you are anyway, but I'm just a stupid competitive person, especially when it comes to anything athletic. I got to hold on to it as long as I can, man, because I'm not trying to just roll out in a fucking wheelchair. I'm gonna be as athletic and do as much dumb physical shit as long as I possibly can. That's my dad's fault, really. So that's why.
I hear you. It's just actually to tie back to the original point. You go to a co-ed men's league, always have a home run rule. Co-ed teams will too, but the men's home run rule, at least when I was playing, was each team gets one, and then after that, it's an out unless the other team hits one.
Which I always thought it should be a single, because I mean, why punish?
Yeah, but it actually makes sense though, because then you just hit a bunch of singles.
Yeah,
It's like two-thirds of the lineup would just be singling over the left field wall. But you look, the chicks, they never hit them out, I mean, rarely. I'm sure some do, but rarely, And girls play on a 205, 220 foot field.
Fucking little league, right? For us.
Yeah, for real. It's like when you're 10.
Yeah. Which is always fun. I don't know if you've ever done this, but my buddy and I did this for a few years after we graduated, before we just finally grew up, I guess. We would just go back once a summer and just go to a little league field and play home run derby.
100%. I did it too. It's fun as hell.
So much fucking fun, dude.
Yep.
Man, I crushed that ball 270 easy. It's like, dude,
it's a fly out to the left fielder.
Yeah, man, that was so much fun, dude. Like that stuff was fun. That was some dumb shit we used to do. Yeah, but no, I would highly recommend come back to baseball, man. It's gotten normal again. It's actually better with this pitch clock and all. I don't know if you've changed or followed up with any of the rule changes and all that they got going on now, but man, it's great.
What was the other one besides the pitch clock? Something else.
So they made the bases a little bit bigger, so steals are up for sure. Like, people are stealing bases again, like it's Ricky Henderson and shit off the regular time.
Wow.
But that's what I go back to, like a record like Ricky Henderson, perfect example. That dude stole 130 bases in one season once.
That's absolutely crazy.
No
way.
Do you think it's harder to break 130 stolen bases or Bonds' 73 home runs?
130 bases guaranteed.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm totally with you. Like, that's literally almost one a game.
I know.
You got
162 games, right? Yeah. You got to get on base and you got to play enough,
Yeah, that's right. Exactly. People sit out games or, you get injured or whatever. Yeah. Like, man, I don't think people realize just how great of the players that we had in that 80s to early to mid 90s era. Those dudes were just, man, it's almost like they were another species, man. Like the stuff that they were doing.
to that point, I think
win, like the way they hit, like you don't see that anymore.
yeah, you don't. And I don't want to hear the steroid shit either because dudes
Oh,
are still taking steroids. I mean,
absolutely.
give me a break,
Who
you know.
cares? You know,
Um, but I think the hardest record in baseball to break though is Ripken Jr.'s 2172 or whatever it
oh
was.
yeah, I think it was more than that. I honestly think it was 20. I thought it was 2,600. Let me look this shit up. But no, that's a
Crazy.
great point.
Like no one's gonna play that many games in a row ever again. I
Man,
can't.
it's
I
hard to
can't.
even play that many games. Period. Think about
No
how
shit. That's true.
games, right?
Yeah.
And then
Yeah. The average.
the other one I would say would be Pete Rose's hit record. I mean, that guy
Yeah.
hit 4,000 fucking hits. I mean,
Yeah. How many? Ichiro hit a
2,130.
bunch.
Wait, no,
2,130.
no, that was Gehrig. It was 2001.
Oh.
How many?
Oh, that's crazy. He played.
2,632. So he didn't just break
Holy
Gehrig's
shit.
record; he crushed it by like two more seasons.
That's freaking nuts, man.
Nobody plays that many, dude. People don't go
No.
7 games without taking a game off.
Yeah, and now you got contracts like
God, man,
Longoria, down in Arizona. I heard him on a podcast I was listening to. His new contract in Arizona is he only plays against like left-handers or something like
that's
that.
a lot of it, man. This baseball thing. Like I love Longo because he just came from the Giants and he was with the Rays for a long time. But yeah, and
Yeah,
this
he
is
was.
my biggest issue with Gabe Kapler, the manager of the Giants now, is we've gotten to this point where it's like, oh, it's a right-handed pitcher, so we can't have any right-handed hitters in the lineup. And that goes to
Stupid.
what you're talking about with Longoria. Like the guy's he's hit over 300 home runs in his career. Like he's a borderline Hall of Fame player, depending how you want
Yeah,
to adjudicate those stats, right? But we've gotten into
3 or 4 Gold Gloves.
yeah, but we've gotten into this mindset of like, oh, unless they're, Paul Goldschmidt or some Mike Trout, these right-handed batters can't play unless it's against a left-handed pitcher. Same with lefties.
Yeah,
Oh, well, they can't play. Like, dude, when you grew up, you played baseball, regardless of whether the pitcher was right-handed or left-handed. You went out and hit the fucking ball. Like, I get all the stats and
yeah.
all the advanced bullshit that goes into it, but you know, I really think about this. Like, would Gabe Kapler would he sit Barry Bonds down because there was a fucking left-handed pitcher?
You'd have to be crazy. I mean, like,
No, we can't have Mark McGwire, or Sammy Sosa, or Griffey play tonight because there's a pitcher of an opposite hand. Like, come on, man. This is
yeah,
that level of the advanced analytics shit was where like you lose me there because there's no equation for the individual in a moment, right? And you can put
yeah.
this,
No, I agree.
yeah.
But you know what? It makes sense from a business standpoint on the Moneyball thing because it also will drive down contract costs over time because the guys are less useful. That like your average player now is only play if to your point here is now only playing against a righty or a lefty. So now you got to have 2 guys to fill a position. So each contract's going to be smaller, and as they each get smaller, they're playing less games. They're less likely to be able to hit those big numbers later in life. They're certainly not going to get a Pujols, Bonds, A-Rod, Mike Trout type contract if they're only hitting against one side or the other of the plate or pitcher. So it makes sense. It sucks for the game, but I can see it financially. I can see how it would make sense.
Well, I would instantly push back with where's Oakland now?
Yeah, good point.
Right. So
Yeah,
I don't know if you're even following that, but now they're on their way out the door.
Vegas, right?
Right. Yeah. So, the Coliseum's dead. Like no one goes to those games, because
Yeah,
and how many titles have they won? Like the A's have been a storied franchise. Like but they haven't won since what, 91, I think. And then I don't
yeah,
know when they transitioned into this stupid model, but the A's had some of the greatest players that we were just talking about. Ricky Henderson's a perfect example. Jose
yeah.
Canseco, Mark McGwire, man, Walt
Mm-hmm.
Weiss, Dave Henderson.
Yeah,
Like
the stash.
yeah,
What
God,
was his name?
uh
Kurt Gibson hit the
Raleigh
home run off of
Fingers.
them.
Raleigh Fingers.
Well, yeah, but Dennis
Dennis
Eckersley.
Eckersley. Yeah, man. Another great
Um,
fucking name. Like
yeah.
but yeah, like and Moneyball, great book, great movie, but did it really do anything?
Yeah, I don't know.
They
It
didn't
definitely
win.
changed the game for sure.
They didn't. They
They
didn't
didn't
win
win.
any.
Yeah,
They didn't win
you're
anything,
right.
and all they
They
did
didn't
was
win.
bring up like great talent to get sold off to the fucking Yankees.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, think about
Yeah,
the great players that came from the A's that ended up either on the Yankees or other teams, the Dodgers in free agency, right? Like,
yeah, yeah.
and I hate that because it's kind of going what you're saying. Like, man, I'm in a weird spot now. Like, what's the day? Wednesday? Yeah. So Monday, randomly, my brother's like, "Yo, he's an Angels fan." He texted me like Sunday morning, "Hey, Otani's pitching for the Angels against the Orioles tomorrow." I'm like, "What, dude? Baltimore's 45-minute drive." So, dude, I'm get on the
You go
internet,
off.
instantly buy tickets, and I get to watch Otani pitch. And dude, this was the weirdest game I've ever seen. Right? And I know you're not following this shit, but so check this out. So you do know Shohei Otani, right? Are you familiar?
I mean, I saw the name go around, but I haven't watched
Okay.
him at all.
Okay. All right. Well, good. That's good. This is an opportunity. We call this a teaching moment. So Shohei Otani, right, from Japan, first two-way player since Babe Ruth, right? And he's a legit stud at everything, right? Came up in the outfield. He can run. Guy's already stolen like 40 bases in a season before.
Wow.
He's 6'4". He's fucking 225. He's huge. He throws 100 miles per hour. He bats lefty, throws righty, throws 100 miles per hour, like hits. He's already hit over 40 home runs. Like the dude is a fucking and he's flirting with 300 right now. Like he's a great fucking all around player, hitter, everything. So his like he's already won an MVP, but his culminating moment right now, I think for most people was, so the World Baseball Classic just took place this year before the regular season started. And he plays with the Angels with Mike Trout, who Mike Trout, everyone argues, is the greatest current player, right? So it comes down to the championship game. It's Japan versus the United States. And runners in scoring position. Mike Trout's up, bottom of the ninth, 2 outs. Shohei Otani on the mound. Like, you can't write this fucking script better, dude.
Right.
Strikes out Trout on 3 straight pitches. Wins the World
shit.
Classic, right? Incredible.
Wow.
Like, blows him away with 2 fastballs. It's 0-2. What does he come with? He comes with, like, he's throwing 100, 101 on his fastball. It comes with this, like, 91 mile per hour slider that just moves, like, 18 inches. Unfucking hittable pitch, right?
Yeah.
So he does that. And so now he comes into the season, right? So anyway, so Monday, it's the weirdest game I've ever seen. Because he's been pitching great. He's had like a, below 2.0 ERA or whatever. The last couple of games, he's been giving up some runs and maybe his arm's tired or whatever. So he ends up going 7 innings. He only gives up 4 hits. Well, he gives up two run home runs.
Oh, shit.
Okay. But then he goes 4 for 5 and hits a 456-foot home run.
That's wild, man.
Dude, I'm sitting there like 15 rows back from home plate on the visitor side, right? So he's lefty. He's right in front of me. I watch him hit this ball, and I'm like, I've never seen a fucking ball hit that far in my life. Like 456 feet. I don't know if you've ever seen some shit like that, but dude, that's
deep.
Football field and a half.
Yeah. No, that's deep. No, I mean, I've been to a lot of big league games, but I never saw a 450-foot home run.
Nothing like that. Like this ball was launched and immediately everyone knew it was gone, but it's like it was in the air forever. It was like a punt.
That's really deep. Yeah, it's crazy. He's a pitcher too.
Yeah, he's incredible, dude. Incredible player.
It makes you
Japanese. Wonder. Like that's it. But he's massive. He'd be like a defensive end if he was a football player.
Yeah. What was that pitcher? Can't remember his name. He's in Japan now, and not because he's not good enough to play in the major leagues, but because he was too much of a cancer in the dugout.
Oh, you're talking about the pitcher for the Dodgers.
Yeah, yep. The last season was with the Dodgers, I think.
Yep. Hold on, because that dude was a stud. Dodgers pitcher.
He could throw like everything. He had like 9 pitches that he could throw well. Some crazy shit.
Trevor Bauer.
Trevor Bauer. Yep.
Oh no, he was a fucking incredible pitcher. This is kind of like where we go back to maybe like there's some weird political pressure going on with that shit, because by all accounts, like it just seems like the dude's into some weird sex shit and he was found not guilty on all of it. But it's like baseball's like,
yeah,
I don't know if we want you in it. But yeah, Trevor Bauer, that dude was I hated him because he was a Dodger. I'm a Giants fan, but that guy, he's an incredible pitcher. Maybe he's just into some weird shit. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. He's good. It does make you wonder though, like basically every kid that's pitching in college right now was the best athlete on their team, best infielder, best hitter, all of that their whole life until they got to college.
Yeah.
And now they pretty much just pitch, all these schools just kind of turn them into a pitcher. You got to work on your mechanics, you got to get your velo up and all this. It makes you wonder how many guys actually could play both ways if they weren't,
Yeah.
sort of relegated to
Well,
the bullpen,
you make a great point. And I think because of Otani's success, and especially from it coming from overseas without like coming up through the minor league system where dudes do exactly what you say, right? Maybe now you're going to get a more of an opportunity to showcase it, because I go back to my team, the Giants, because it's who I follow, but they just drafted a guy, Reggie Crawford. I can't remember what college he came from, but they're doing a two-way thing with him. And he's coming back from an arm surgery, but yeah, he's an outfielder, just crushes the ball in college, throws 98 miles per hour as a pitcher.
Wow.
Yeah, who is it? Like this guy that the Giants actually just called up, this rookie who's lighting the fucking league on fire over the last 2 weeks, Casey Schmidt. He was a first round, or no, second, was he the second or first or second round pick of the Giants a couple years ago from San Diego State. He was a pitcher there and a shortstop. Throws like 98 miles per hour, right? So
Yeah.
converted him to third base and short. He's playing all the infield positions. He just set the record this week for the highest velocity throw across the infield at 93 miles per hour.
Jeez.
On third base.
Holy shit.
Yeah. So like there's dudes, exactly to your point, that can do it. Like you're exactly right. Like, dude, if I wasn't pitching, I was a third baseman, right? And then I got to college and there's better third basemen than me. It's like, okay, well, we know you're gonna pitch. That's what you're here for. Okay, cool. And then I'd sit there and watch and I'd go take batting practice and I'd fucking hang out with the third base. But I knew those guys were better than me. Sure. Right. It's an ego check for sure, but you're right. And then you realize you aren't that good. And everybody along the way is that much better than you are. And that's why I love sports, but baseball more than anything. It's like, man, nothing's getting given to you, dude. You either earn it or you don't, period.
Yeah. You can deal with politics in baseball too, though.
You may get opportunities, but you still got to prove it, right?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, definitely at the higher levels. I mean, look at how many teams put up with Bonds for his whole career. Everybody hated that guy from his rookie season on. They hated his guts, but he's too good to not play. You know, he might be the best player ever. Honestly,
I think he is. I think he is for sure. I mean, just especially like if you really break down the stats, like he had this great quote. They asked him once about the shift. It was after he retired. He's like, "What do you think about the shift?" He's like, "The only thing that shifted was make me not hit 400. You can't shift and catch the ball over the fence."
Right.
He's right. Like that season, there was that one year where people argue like, oh, 73 home runs was his greatest season. No, I think it was 2 years later where his on base percentage was 609.
It was crazy. Yeah. Cause they were walking him so much too.
Right. Like,
yeah. Well, they were intentionally walking that dude with like bases loaded.
232 intentional walks in one season.
That's incredible. I mean, that's a number that will probably never happen again.
Why would you ever? Like, I mean, it's just really weird. And there's this great line, like people always do this shit where they tell like this absurd thing that took place in baseball overnight, and they would always end it with, and that's baseball. Because there's no sport like it where you could come up with some of the shit like that we just discussed, like the records, these things that took place. Like it wouldn't even make sense to individuals if you told them the story of Bonds, or if you told them Ricky Henderson, or if there's so many Pete Rose, like these, like none of that makes sense in the context of like, sure, that could happen today because it can't.
Right. Yeah, and it is the other thing about baseball that's so different is it's the only sport that really seriously guards its Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
There's a lot of phenomenal players that are not in the Hall of Fame. Very, very, very good players that don't make it,
Well, there's some really dudes I don't think belong, like Scott Rowland that just got in this year from the Phillies. Like that dude's in the Hall of Fame, like really good player, Hall of Famer.
Yeah, I'd have to I'd have to look at his numbers because I don't really. I mean, I remember him as a
The
player, but
numbers
I
are
don't remember.
fine, but man, it's like, man, at the expense of some of the guys who aren't, I'm just like, oh, come on, you know?
Yeah. Or
Maybe
you
it's
mean like the Pete
position.
Rose thing?
Well, I mean, he was a third baseman for a while. He was with the Phillies forever, you know.
No, no, I know
Yeah.
Roland, but I
No,
mean,
I mean,
like,
yeah. And I think you may have even, I don't know if you liked it or you noticed the tweet or whatever, but yeah, I went to this Nationals game a few weeks back, or maybe it was last month, and it's like, man, that fucking MGM Sportsbook's attached to the stadium. Like they
yeah,
encourage
yeah,
you at this point to go make bets, and it's
I
like
know,
Pete Rose bet on his own team to win. It wasn't the opposite.
right?
This guy's a fucking demon, and I got all these people in the comments or the responding like, I would consider allowing him into Hall of Fame, but only after he's dead. I'm like,
What
really?
is that?
What
Yeah,
is that where you're really at? Like, are you really this personally like accosted by that?
that's
Despite how
gross.
great of a player that dude was on the field, like
He's definitely one of the top 25 of all time for sure.
easily, like if you want to make an argument for like people always account best hitter, like they take power into it, but like just pure take power out of it. And he was very adamant. Like I specifically tried to hit the ball to get on base. I didn't try to hit home runs.
Yeah, I've heard
He
him
still
say
had
that.
over like 130, I think, for his career. Like it's not like he never hit any like Ozzie Smith. Like that dude could still hit for power, but man,
Yeah,
that guy was a stud. Like that Charlie Hustle was his nickname. Like
yeah,
it,
yeah.
it's
He was
wild.
he was how I got to be a Phillies fan as a kid.
Oh,
Was
really? Really? Yeah.
yeah,
Mike Schmidt was
yeah,
mine. Plus, I grew up in the area, but I always liked Mike Schmidt. He was a third baseman. So,
yeah, yeah. Rose was he was a hell of a player, man. There's nobody. I
stud.
remember as kids we called sliding head first to Pete Rose.
Yeah.
Like everybody
You ever
did.
slide head first?
Oh yeah,
It's scary, ain't it?
yeah. Well, yeah, yes. It depends on the situation. It sure can be. Like
Yeah.
definitely never to home plate. You see a lot of guys doing that now. You know, there's no way in hell. No.
No, you got to make a business decision on home plate slides.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I was talking about? Girls and stuff. They should. You know how they like they'll call you out in high school if you don't slide at home plate if there's a play there.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
Basically, at every base in girls softball, you should be called out if you do try to slide in high school because these girls are like scorpion. You know, every time they try to slide, like their heels hit their freaking helmets. You know, like some kid's gonna hurt themselves out there. I mean,
Well, I
they
mean,
mostly just flop.
you bring up a great point, and I don't know. You can tell me if your daughter's team do they practice sliding?
They, dude, listen, they practice sliding, but it's
Yeah.
like we're gonna get a slip and slide out. I'm like, oh my god. Uh, okay, you know, I have to just walk away. I can't, you know.
Well, what I would is so here's what we used to do, and we even did this in college. Like I thought it was great because it was a continuity thing, and it really started my senior year. The coach we had come in, he played D1 baseball. He played in the minors for a few years, but the sliding drill he brought in was it wasn't a slip and slide because that's an easy thing. It was a long cardboard box.
Yeah, that's a good
And he
idea.
would put it in front of the base, not like, hey, let's put it out in the outfield. Everybody practice sliding. We just have fun. No, he wanted you to be able to see the target still and then
Yeah.
slide right without. Because, yeah, I hated sliding. I really did because I always tore my knee up. I always scuffed my fucking ass up. If it didn't matter. I've got permanent scars. And if I slide even to the day, they open right up, right? Like it's just your skin is shot. And that's why the
Yeah.
best thing was sliding head first. That's why it's the best possible slide you can do. But man, that's a mind fuck, dude. It really is. And I know they've come up with those mitts that they wear now, but it's
Yeah.
always, and I have no problem diving in defense, which is weird. But
Well, you're not gonna get stepped on by a spike diving for a
but yeah,
ball.
like close play at second, I'm like, I'm gonna go leg first. Oh, I'm out. Fuck. Okay. Yeah, but
No,
the cardboard box is a great tool.
yeah, it is a good idea. I'll have to work with that with her. Like right now at home, I've just got her one step, you know, pop up slide position,
That's
two
good.
step pop up slide position. Just try to get that form built in so you're not like jumping, you know, onto the ground or flopping onto the ground.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I liked stealing bases, so I didn't have, I
I'm
like,
slow to worry about that shit, man. That's all.
yeah.
Dude, I was stealing bases on a pass ball. I'd be like, yo, in the book, put stolen bait, bro. Yeah, speed
Yeah.
was never my thing, man. Not once we got onto a big field for sure. What
Yeah,
position
it's
is your what's your daughter playing?
dude that they moved her from third, second, short. They played her all over this year. It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And she's a freshman,
Oh,
so it's a lot of, and she would start to get frustrated. I'm like, kid, you're a freshman playing on the varsity team, and they're treating you like a utility player. This is a lot to remember. You're gonna make some mistakes, because I do get it. I brought up that physical errors happen, but mental errors are always your fault. You make a mental error, that's your
100%. That's a
fault.
great point.
So I was kind of riding her about that kind of stuff. But then, when they were moving around a lot, I was like, you know what, kid, sometimes you're not going to know where to go with the ball because you're just getting moved too much right now. You're young. It's your first year playing in a serious league. High school's quite a bit more serious than, summer softball and shit. So yeah, then they played her in one game in the tournament. They moved her out to center. I didn't understand why they did that, but she liked it, which
She fast?
I just keep. Yeah, she is fast. And she's reliable.
Yeah.
She's got a very reliable glove. Her
Yep.
throwing mechanics are shit, but she will knock down any ground ball that's hit at her, and she'll catch anything she can get to. You can pretty much
That's awesome.
trust her to catch. Um, dude, she one time there was a ball that it was hit hard. She was playing second. It might have been a left-handed kid. I don't remember, but it was hit hard. A lot of top spin. Like we were talking about those softballs, you get a lot of bad hops,
Yep.
and it's like a two hopper, and the second hop was bad, and it popped. It kind of caught her in between, essentially, in between the what would have been the third hop, and she knocked it down with her bare hand, and threw the kid out. And the umpire's like, "Do you need a minute?" And she's just shaking her head, like, "No,
No, I don't need
I'm okay."
them.
I know she's crying.
Yeah, internally, like, yeah, I need like an hour, man, but I'm good. Let's go. Game on.
Yeah. And then she comes and after the game, she's like, "Hey, did you see that one I knocked down?" I said, "You talking about the bad hop?" And she said, "Yeah." I said, "Yeah, I was proud of you." She said, "Good. I knew you'd be proud of me for that one." Like, yeah, I am. And I'm
Yeah.
such a shitty dad. Sometimes I'm like, "How about that one that you kind of let go up the middle? I'm pretty sure you could have got to
Yep.
that."
That's great. Yeah, I'm glad you said that, but let me go to the first thing. So you mentioned the center field, and I never really thought about, like, this was one of those moments that things kind of like, it was one of those aha moments in school. I remember it was the preseason write up of our team in high school, my senior year, and one of my really good friends, Nick, he was always a center fielder, but he was moved to shortstop. Um, just for our senior season. And a lot of us were like, what the fuck is Nick playing short for? And the quote from our coach was, because he's the best athlete.
Mm-hmm.
And then the follow-up sentence was, if he wasn't playing short, he'd be in center field. So I would say to you, for your daughter, if she ever asks, that's where the best athletes play, right? Short and center field every time. That's best athletes, right? Easy cover left to right in the outfield, and then at short, most range, second deepest throw compared to third base, but third basemen don't cover the range, right? So
No, yeah, no. Yeah, third, as you know, you played there too. I mean,
yeah,
it's pretty much a one hop spot. You don't have a lot
yeah,
of range over
you just gotta have a strong arm. Fire that fucking cannon.
there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And you got to. My grandpa used to always say they put the ugliest kid on third base.
Man, I had a coach that always used to heckle me, be like, "Oh, E5." Every time I made a play, I'm like, "Bitch, I didn't." Like in my head, I'd be like, "I didn't make a fucking error. What do you call me E5 for? You fucking dick."
Mm-hmm. Oh, I hated making errors, dude. And unfortunately, I made my share of them. But
Yeah, it's part of it, man, for sure. No, I think that's really cool. Like my daughter, like I just remember, man, she never wanted to do a team sport. I remember taking her to the batting cage when she was like 6, and the first pitch that came, she crushed. I'm like, "You can do this." She's like, eh.
She just didn't like it.
No, she hates team activities, man. She's an individual. So like we'll throw the ball, which is cool. She likes doing
Yeah.
that. She's always like throwing the ball with me, but like she's never wanted to do the sport thing. It's not in her. She takes way too much after her mom. You know, her mom's a really
Oh yeah.
passive individual, which is cool, but she's about to graduate next year, man. So man, I'm getting
That's
fucking
crazy.
old as shit. I'm getting old.
You are, man.
42, bro.
You 42.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's deep.
I'm in better
I'll be
shape
30.
now, though. When I was 22, if I was this way, then I
You
might have
are in
made
great
something of
shape.
myself. I
It's
might have made
it's undeniable.
yeah, I might have made something of myself. That's crazy.
You know another thing about boys and girls sports difference that I didn't know. My wife, she played soccer.
Okay,
She
yeah,
didn't play anything
another
else.
great sport.
Yeah, I hate soccer, but I don't mind girls
I know, but
soccer.
like when you break it down, it's great sport, man. But I get it for all the reasons you hate it.
Yeah, it's European. I don't like Euro trash shit. Um, I think she swam too. I can't remember, but
Yeah, me and my brother did that. My brother swam in college. Yeah, they're all swimmers and everything.
no shit. Yeah, swims. That's an interesting sport. But so I didn't realize I was at work. I'm a stickler for mechanics because mechanics are the game. So I'm always working with my kid. I always tell her when you're at the plate, you don't think about any of this. Don't think about anything but hitting that fucking ball. But when we're doing BP at home, working off a tee, working off a hitting stick, whatever, then it's just mechanics all day. Um, and having a real hard time keeping her off her front leg. Girls just have a tendency to
Too
end up
early or what?
no like their weight ends up clear up on their front leg, like over the top of their knee. It's almost like
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
almost like their bat drags them forward. So I was
She's
having
not.
a real hard.
No,
No, go
good.
ahead.
No, no. I'll add it at the end.
So
I
I
think.
and these coaches a lot of times are just not. She's lucky she's got a great coach. But there are other coaches. They're always saying stupid shit like the shit you heard in Little League, like squash the bug. And it's like, oh my gosh, dude, so she gets a lot of bad advice. I'm working with her trying to get her hips through. And you have to keep your weight back to get your hips through. And then one coach said, your shoulder's flying open. I said, your shoulder's not flying open. Your shoulder's got to open up to get the bat through the zone. That's not your shoulder flying open. I said, if a person who knows what they're talking about says that, they're talking about pulling off the ball, not
Yeah.
letting your. And so, anyway, sorry, you can tell my blood pressure gets up. But
this is good. This is me every time I watch the Giants each night, man.
So I'm like working with her, and my wife points out, she says, girls have a hard time with the rotational motion in their hips. Their hips don't rotate like yours do. And I had never even considered that, because you think about like girls, say dancing or something or whatever. But dancing that's not a rotational movement in the hips. It's like forward and back, kind of maybe side to side, like flexibility stuff, but it's not a core strength, rip your body through something. And I had never even considered that. But when you talk about the differences in mechanics, we all like body biomechanics, we always talk about like size, upper body strength, this kind of stuff. But actually, the narrower hip and the stronger core generates a shitload more power than girls are capable of. So it's like it's even the nuancy parts of your body are much, much more powerful than a girl's. And these things don't necessarily show up in numbers, but if you look at like exit velocity on a good girls softball player, her bat exit velocity is going to be around like 70.
Okay.
A good one. You look at exit velocity on a good man's bat, it's going to be like 100. Like,
good.
what,
Yeah.
good, not great.
Yeah.
Somebody like Aaron Judge is going to have 108, 100.
Aaron
It's
Judge
going to be,
which is weird, but I'll come back to him. But keep going.
but it'll show up in some kind of numbers like that, but people don't ever talk about those numbers. The difference between 70 and 100 it's not just substantial, it's enormous. I mean, it is, because like for anybody who doesn't know that's listening, they say on a girls' field, which is shorter, 220 or so. The difference between a fly out and a home run is taking your exit velo from 64 to like 68. Now it's gone. So you take 70 to 100 and think, dude, that you're adding another 150 feet to the ball. You know,
Also
I
launch
mean,
too, right?
what's that?
Launch angle too.
Yeah, well, yeah, launch angle too. Yeah, but like, believe me, with high school girls, I'm not even worried about launch angle right now.
Yeah. Well, all right. So a couple of things. So the first thing, we talk hips, and I mean, I don't know how much I know you've done a lot of physical shit. I know you're a wrestler, baseball, this shit, but one of the big foundational pieces of CrossFit in terms of athletic performance is the hips.
Mm.
And it's one of the cornerstone pieces. If you look at any of their literature, is like the demonstration of athletic performance can always be tied to the hips.
I agree with that.
And I like, and that was one of those things I remember 2014 when I did my CrossFit level 1 certification and really getting into that. I was like, man, that's it was a hard pill to swallow because I never had explosive hips, man. Like I never did. My brother is a very explosive athlete, right? He's different than me. He's a couple inches shorter, always a better swimmer, always a better sprinter. He's just a more explosive athlete, right? Like I was a good athlete, but he's more explosive. And when I really realized where explosivity comes from, it's the hips.
Yeah.
You know, my brother's 4 years older than me. And so to this day, when he sends me these videos of him like kicking the bag, I'm like, Jesus, if I get kicked by that fucking kick, I'm going to get broken in half, right? Like
yeah, it doesn't feel good.
You're a UFC guy. Like, you know how this shit works. And it's like, that's all hip explosion, man. And it really does express itself in baseball and softball because power comes through nothing more than hips. You're talking about how to get your hips through, right? How does that work for a girl, right? The typical girl sport doesn't really allow for the explosion of hips, right? Softball, maybe gymnastics, right? Because gymnastics has a lot of hip explosion to do like some of the parallel stuff. Like that's, man, gymnasts, men, female, those dudes are women as well. They're fucking incredible. So the hips for sure are a very good indicator of how well of an athlete you'll be. Because if you find a great athlete, high school, college, pro, whatever, chances are if you go all the way and drill it back down to the hip performance and you're annotating that stuff, probably a good chance that they weren't me. Right.
Yeah, no, I think that, or me. Yeah. To your point. Yeah. No, I think that's totally right. 100%. It's even true in horses, you know, you look at how they breed. Like the American quarter horse was basically bred to be originally bred to run a quarter mile, and then it, you know, kind of turned into what it is now, like a ranch horse. I mean, they still race, but everything is in the hips on a horse like that. I mean, the girth and stuff matters too, but it's all, any athletic movement you do on a horse, pretty much it's gonna tie back to his hips. He's gonna sit back on his hips and move. Especially if it's like a tight turn, he's going to sit way down on his butt, basically, you know. And it's all hips. I think that's true. Look, you look at difference between an animal like a gorilla and like a chimpanzee. You know, like our body shapes are more like a chimpanzee than a gorilla. And gorillas like live on their upper body, right? You know, but if you were just rating pure athleticism, a chimp is going to be 10 times the athlete. You know, he's out there swinging from trees and shit. You know?
You don't want to get into a fucking fight with a chimp. You don't want to.
No. Yeah. And I guess they're kind of built more, but I guess they don't have huge hips either. But it's an interesting. You know what? Mountain lion's a great example of that. They have extremely powerful hips. You know. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Bears too, dude. Bears have huge freaking asses.
Man, that's the scariest thing I could think of. If I'm ever anywhere, I just don't want a fucking bear chasing me. What am I going to do?
Oh, you can't outrun them. That's for sure.
You can't outrun them. Can't outstrength them. I don't know what you can shoot them with. I mean, yeah, we go back to, Yellowstone. I think Rip shoots them with that 30-aught.
I mean, I'd start with whatever you got in your hand and work up from there. But yeah, 30-06 will kill a bear deader than hell for sure, though.
Really? Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, black bears are not. They're actually not that tough.
Well, no, black bears, I grew up with them in Florida. They're kind of small. Like, they're not that big. I'm talking about like a grizzly charging your ass. Like, what are you going to do with that?
Shoot him. That's the goal. That's the goal. Shoot him before he eats me, man.
Yeah, I mean, I guess shoot him and hope they're like, yo, what the fuck was that? I'm going the other way now, right?
The only time I've ever been real scared of a bear, I've been nervous. Don't get me wrong. I've had situations where I was pretty nervous, but the only one time I was real scared of a bear was he was sleeping, and I was with my buddy. We were bow hunting for black bears over kind of near Yellowstone, and we had been taking turns. One guy'd have a bow and the other guy'd have a shot. We each had our own shotguns, of course, when we'd walk. But to take a stalk in on the bear, one guy'd hold the shotgun and back him up just in case, And anyway, we've been doing that. And we got into a situation where we were just driving up to this other spot to get out and hike up and camp in a different area. And there was a bear on the side of the road sleeping about 30 yards into the trees that he saw. I didn't see. And we slammed on the brakes and jumped out. And we both, after we got up a little ways, and we both just grabbed our bows. Neither one grabbed a shotgun. Didn't even think about it. So all I had was a sidearm. And yeah, I had to have had my pistol on me too. But anyway, we go up in the trees, sneak around, come down on opposite sides of the bear. Obviously, he was going to be able to shoot it because he saw it, but just in case, I would shoot it if it came over my way. And I ranged the tree that this bear's under, and this guy had already had me and him stalk in on a grizzly after I told him that's a freaking grizzly bear. Saw it like 200 yards away. I'm like, that's a grizzly, and he was convinced that's a different story. But so I already knew his judgment was sus on these things. Okay, so I ranged the tree. It's like 33 yards from me. And I see him draw his bow back, arrow nock, draws his bow. And I'm like, oh shit, we're killing a bear, and then he lets down and he looks over at me and just mouths, like whispers grizz, but so I could read his lips. I'm like, are you shitting me? So now we're both 30 yards away from this bear, and it's between us and the truck. Neither one has a shotgun, and it's awake and looking at us now. I'm like, this is the worst situation I've ever been in. I've got all I can do is shoot this thing and hope for the best. It ended up working out. The bear just wandered off, but that could have been.
Is a bow going to do anything to a bear?
You could definitely kill a grizz with a bow, but really? How long is he going to live before he dies is the problem. I
guess that's the point, man. That's one of those situations that I don't think people really ever really have to experience or account for, right? That's a good point.
Hope to not do
like, you can kill it, but how long is it going to be alive before? Because he can do a lot of shit before he dies, right? Like, he's like, all right.
Oh yeah. Meriwether Lewis got chased into the Missouri River by the first grizzly he ever encountered. I'm writing about the story in my book now. And oh
wait, are you finally writing this book? Because we talked about
I've been working on it. It's just taking me forever.
It's been like 7 years since you were on the last time, and you were talking. No, I'm just kidding.
It's been a couple years for sure. Man, it's taken a lot of weird turns. Changed my thinking on a few things.
I can't wait for it. I can't wait.
So Meriwether Lewis, okay, he was kind of a pompous dandy feller from Virginia, right? But it's the old types of Virginian gentleman, he's like pretty neat guy.
And like had like his whole head scalp almost ripped off.
No, that's a different guy. Okay. So Meriwether, this is Lewis and Clark,
Okay.
And he had already killed something like 300 black bears, and he kept telling these Indians, because they all the Indians on the river on the way up, basically since the Mandan village in the Dakotas, had told him about this great white bear, and you'd be afraid of this great white bear. And he basically was like, these guys are pussies, man. I ain't afraid of these stupid bears. You know how many bears I've killed? He's like not even worried about this thing. And he finally encounters one, sees it. He called it silver, which makes sense. I've seen them sometimes in the sun. Certain ones do look pretty silvery. And he sneaks up. They got muskets, right? And sneaks up to some bushes, and he's watching it and waiting. Finally shoots it, 50 caliber ball. Shoots it right through the lungs. The bear turns around, starts chasing him. He runs, another guy shoots it. The other guy's with, I forget which one. It might have been John Coulter that was with him. I think it was. Anyway, he shoots it. They both take off running, jump into the river to try to get away from it, to swim out to their boat, where all the other guys are at. The bear jumps into the river with him, chasing it. This thing's shot through the lungs. All the guys on the boat shoot it again. And by the time they get this thing killed and he's in the boat, they drag it ashore or whatever, he said that there were, now I don't want to lie, I can't remember if it was 5 or 7, but either 5 or 7 musket holes through its torso.
God.
Before it died. Yeah. Yeah. I think. I'd have to go back and look at notes, but I think they were all 50s. Yeah. Jesus. Just a big ass lead ball, and that thing lived. But in grizzlies, when they get hit in the heart, like they're going to die, it's something that's been built into them genetically over time. They get a big, huge shot of adrenaline. They have a huge amygdala.
Yeah, I've heard that.
And they get a big shot of adrenaline. So they're basically living while they're dead, on autopilot, just off rage, essentially,
Is that because of humans, or is that because of just their own shit that they encounter with each other?
I think probably just fighting other bears over time, I would bet.
Well, I mean, would another bear get to their heart?
I think it's more just that the system evolved in that way, not necessarily that it's probably wrong to point out the heart part, but I'm saying like a heart shot is a shot that would kill them.
It triggers whatever usually gets them in a fight to where they're like, hey, you're gonna die.
Right.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Then they just go ham.
Dude, to go back real quick, like, so your daughter, do you teach her the whole throw the knob at the bat of the ball thing?
No, I don't, but I was taught that.
Yeah, well, it's one of the things, and I was literally honestly just reading this today, honestly. There was an article I was reading about, because we talked about Barry Bonds. He's like, some of the greatest pictures you'll ever see of Bonds is everything, his hands are always out in front of his body when he hits a home run.
Mm-hmm.
And it transfers like to softball. Yeah, like his hands are always here because he's bringing the knob to the bat, right? Or the knob to the ball. And then it goes to what your daughter is dealing with. If she's so far out on her front foot sometimes, it's because she's accelerating her swing rather than keeping her weight back and accelerating through the zone with the bat. Right. Throw the hands at the ball, let the fucking hands do everything, and then the weight will transfer naturally to the front foot. But honestly, one of the baseball, softball, it doesn't matter. Just study Bonds' hitting. Like, that dude's fucking swing was perfect for everything because he was always super compact, super short, choked up on like the guy was everything that you were told to do, right? Like, did it, and it may help to kind of alleviate some of the issues your daughter's having with being out on the front foot. Because all that is to me, like, even without even looking at her swing, if you tell me she's out on her front foot, she's just trying to time early. And if she's timing early, she's probably on it, but she's not going to generate any power. So she's going to just slap the ball on the ground, most likely, right? Or hit a stupid pop-up.
Yeah, and it also causes it when it's 100%. And it also causes, to your point, it causes the bat to kind of take a U through the zone instead of come through flat.
You're not going to do anything unless you get super lucky. And even then, it's a single, right? We don't want that. We want bombs and doubles. Yeah. That's it.
Doubles, yeah.
Doubles in the gap.
She hit a double off the second best pitcher in the state of Idaho the last
kid you were telling me about. That's awesome.
I was happy about it. Yeah, that kid throws. I think they said 68.
That's nuts, dude.
Just
that's
hard
like
for
low 90s.
softball.
Yeah, that's low 90s if you convert that. Look, you gotta understand. Low 90s is nothing in terms of like a pro, even good college. Like, you'll see it and you get familiar with it. But man, if you're seeing that as a high school,
yeah.
Dude, that's life changing because you're like, holy shit. That's like
Yeah, that's
that
hard,
wakes
dude.
you up. Like, man, that's hard. It's like
Mm-hmm.
that great line from Major League, straight ball, I hit very much. Curveball, not so great, right? It's
Yeah, yeah,
you just said
yeah.
something about that. Like, you trying to tell me Jesus Christ can't hit a curveball?
Yeah.
The greatest movies ever, man.
It is a good movie.
Can we make that
Yeah,
again? You think we could make that?
no, I don't think so. I mean you could, to Bill Burr's point, you could, but
That's ridiculous.
you'd get a lot of blowback, but who cares? I think you'd get a shitload of support too. Yeah. Do you know the other thing they can throw a pitch that rises, because of
Yeah.
their
Oh,
release
yeah.
angle. That would take a minute to get used to for a breaking ball to come upward. That would be weird.
So, because I'm going to really nerd out here on Giants pitchers, but Taylor Rogers, right, of the Giants, he throws underhand, which is weird because he has a twin brother who's now officially on the Giants. He's never been on the Giants until this year. Who his brother, they're twins. The one I'm talking about is right-handed, throws underhand. His brother is left-handed, throws overhand, throws low to mid 90s. But his brother, the one I'm talking about, the literal underhander, everything's like a riser, a slider, whatever, and the velocity is nothing. Like the hardest I've ever probably seen him was like 86. But when you change the angle, this is what I was explaining to my mom. It's like it doesn't matter if you throw 60. Like if you're used to seeing mid 90s coming from this, and then all of a sudden you change everything and it's coming like this, even the sliders coming up and moving. Man, that's a total mental mind fuck. It doesn't matter what the velocity is, you can't hit it.
Yeah, and you're gonna induce a lot of little pop ups to the
Yep.
infield and shit like that too.
That dude
100%.
either gets rocked or he just gets everybody out. And right now he's in the moment. He's in that like period where he's just getting everybody out. But I've seen the opposite.
Yeah. Well, that's gonna happen with anybody with a
Yeah.
low velo anymore.
Yeah.
Dude, I remember to your point about seeing 90s. We had a guy Owen DeGraff and Reed graduated, and he went and played in college and came back and pitched BP for us one time. And dude, he's a big guy, probably 6'5", something like that. Big dude. He was a
The
great
big boy on
wrestler
the
too.
mound. Yeah, it's a big boy on the
Yeah.
mound.
Oh man, and he threw I want to say high 80s, like 88, somewhere in there, left-hander, and he came through that BP. Dude, it was eye-opening to say the least. I mean, the whole team is just striking out left and right.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. Like you go to the batting cage and crank the batting cage up to 90. You see it one or two times, you can hit it.
Yeah.
But
This is
when it's
different.
coming, dude, it's totally different. It's
Yeah,
coming
totally different.
down. It's like freaking so hard to hit, man.
Well, that is
Yeah,
the other thing. Like in the batting cage, it's coming. You
right.
know
Yeah,
it's coming. With the pitcher, you might throw
true.
your changeup, right? You might throw your curve. Might throw
Oh,
your
dude, have you seen
yes,
softball
you gotta
changeups?
look what's that?
Have you seen? Sorry to cut you off. Have you seen
Oh,
softball changeups?
I've seen them. Yeah. I've never actually stood in the plate and taken one. No.
I tell my kids sometimes, listen, don't get down in the count. Try to get that kid to throw you a changeup because it's like a batting practice pitch. They just have a hard time, slowing that, not making it obvious, and usually
Yeah.
it kind of rainbows in. But anyway, that with a dude, he does same motion, same arm angle, same everything, and it takes about 10 miles an hour off of it, and you feel like you're gonna fall on your face.
I mean, that was my pitch in college that I developed. Like that was it because I threw a circle change and that was my best pitch.
Yeah.
And like I said, I didn't throw fucking like if I didn't throw hard for that. I mean, I threw hard for normal people, but like if I'm throwing you an 85-mile-an-hour fastball and then I drop 72 with a circle change that drops 10 to 12 inches, you aren't hitting it.
No, yeah.
So why would you
No,
waste
I'm
your
not, for
time, right?
sure.
You're waiting for me to throw the 85-mile fastball so you can deposit it into the fucking seats, which I've had a lot, because that's fucking hitting, and that's what I never like. My dad, like, he wasn't in a position to teach me this. Like, my dad played baseball, but you know this. The more you progress, and you're probably learning this with your daughter, and she's getting it. Like, the more you progress, the more you realize baseball, softball, you have to think. It's a thinking person's game, period.
Oh yeah.
It's like
100%.
golf, right? The only difference between golf and baseball is the ball's not moving. But it's the same fucking thing, man. It's like you can't go into any at bat worried about how hard a pitcher throws. Whatever, you have to pick a spot on the plate that you're going to cover a specific velocity, a specific movement, and you look for that and hope you get it.
Yeah.
Other than that, man, once you get to a, like, especially college, once you get to that and above, man, you're just hoping and praying at that point. And the best players can do it, because you can't just go up there and be like, yeah, I'm going to hit 95. No, the fuck you're not. You're not even going to see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
You're not going to see it.
It's funny you say that. My uncle told me that the first thing his hitting coach told him when he got to spring training was swing as hard as you can in case you hit it. So that was the first advice he got.
Right. Yes. Yeah. But it better be in that zone and the coverage of the play that you're trying to do. Because, like, look at now, man. Like, I think I talked about this with, you remember that dude, Walt Mazzoliak, that would show up on
Yeah.
I talked about this with him a few years back. And he was right. You know, it's just the evolution of technology, but also like the training methodologies and everything. Because, you know, when you and I grew up, man, you saw somebody throw 95, you're like, holy shit, everybody throws 95 now. Man, the dude on the Giant, Camilo Duvall, that dude he touches 104.
True, yeah.
That's
crazy.
You don't see it, Braxton. You can't see 104. You can hope you're looking over the plate in that specific position. And like you said, swing as hard as you can, because he might hit it. And if you do, it's probably got to go a long way if you're on the right launch angle, right? Or the right plane. But man, it's so hard from 60 feet, 6 inches away to see something that fast.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, man. Yeah, well, and to your point about the evolution of like just training mechanics and stuff. Look at Tim Lincecum. He was like 160 pounds, and the dude was out there throwing like 94.
I got a great story about Lincecum. So I was in a leadership school at Fort Jackson, 2006. And, you know, it was a residency, right? So I had a roommate, and, you know, I think it might have been Lincecum's. It was 06 or 07. I think he had just thrown a no-hitter. And we're watching it on Sports Center. My roommate's like, oh, shit, that's Tim Lincecum. I'm like, yeah, you know, because I'm a Giants fan. So I'm like, yeah, it's fucking Tim Lincecum. He's like, dude, that's my older brother's best friend. We grew up in Bellevue, Washington in high school and playing baseball together.
Wow.
And he's like, yo, that dude smoked so much weed, which made sense.
I believe, yeah.
Yeah, because he was in San Francisco, so it worked out perfectly for him. But yeah, Lincecum, like, once I finally started following that dude's career, that made no sense, man. That dude was a physical anomaly, like you said, from a size perspective. But then eventually, at some point, he had to learn how to pitch. And then overall, like, it didn't last forever, but he was great. He had 2 Cy Youngs. Like, the dude was he was a stud for a while, man. But
and nails in the World Series.
Yeah, like the pressure moments meant nothing to him. He's like, fuck it. He was probably hot, to be honest.
Probably.
Yeah, he don't know what's going on. He's like, bro, throw the 94-mile-per-hour slider. Let's just.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way that body is going to hold up. You know, like Nolan Ryan could do it because he's huge, you know, but yeah, it is weird. Even that Trevor Bauer we were talking about earlier, he's not a big guy either. I think he's about my size, I think.
Yeah, 6'6". Yeah.
And like 190, 200, you know, just like I'm like 5'11", 195, 200. He's
just got great flexibility in his arm, you know, to be able to throw that hard.
Yeah, and he was I watched one of his YouTube videos one time. I don't even know how he popped up in my algo, but I watched him, and a really interesting guy. Like he was like a physics major or something like that in college. Really bright dude.
He's got so much. Like, I just think like Major League Baseball doesn't know how to handle that dude, because he's not just some fucking idiot who can throw the ball hard. Like, he's a complex human.
Yeah, I think he picked a lot of fights for sure, but so did Bonds. Bonds got in fist fights at every team he was ever on, you know?
Yeah, I listened to a lot of, so about a month ago, I went up to my old alma mater in New York, and, you know, I went and watched a doubleheader. And, you know, on the way back, I was, you know, listening to some Bonds podcast, and he was trying to explain a lot of that, because it's true, especially growing up on the East Coast, you know, being a Giants fan. Like I never got to watch those games. Like everything I saw the Giants and Bonds was like Sports Center on the next morning, getting ready to go to school. But he made a great point. He's like, and I can see like he's authentic because you know these types of people and their personalities, especially you would pick up on this. He's very open and honest. He's like, dude, I'm an introvert. I don't want to do any of the stuff that average athletes are expected to do. I don't want to talk to people. I don't want to do anything. I just want to go show you what I can do as an athlete. And I was great at doing that. But then you would come to my locker and you want to ask me questions and you don't understand what I'm going through or saying anyway. So how can I explain this to you? How can I explain to you how seeing 100-mile-per-hour fastball is nothing to me?
Yeah.
To you, that's hard. To me, he's like, as a hitter, like there is nothing. And he talked about his time as the coach for the Marlins. He's like, yeah, I really had to debate on if I could go do this because I needed to really understand if I could convey to the average baseball player, even if they're pros, how to hit. Because to me, it was never hard. Like hitting a baseball was never hard. And that's the craziest thing for me to hear, Braxton. Like,
I believe it, though.
Yeah, right. But he's saying like, this is not hard, but how do I explain that to you, even as a pro hitter, to make you understand like you can feel the same way? And he's like, it took a long time. It took many months for me to build a rapport and to try to get them to understand. But it's like, overall, I feel I made the positive impact, but I'm really trying to affect my legacy now, but it's probably too late. And he acknowledges that. He's like, but the media wants me to apologize to them, but I never wanted to be a part of that. Which I don't respect in a way, right? Like it's hard to look back on someone who just didn't fit in and expect them to fit in, right? Like not everybody's fucking Michael Jordan. Not everybody's Ken Griffey Jr. Bonds just happened to be the greatest player that you and I probably argue is one of them, but he just didn't have the personality to fit in with the media.
Well, I was talking more about how he got in fights on every team he ever played for from the time he was like in Arizona, in college.
It makes sense. He just couldn't relate or get along with him.
Yeah, and I mean his dad was one of the best players of his era.
Yeah, another great player. And then his fucking godfather is Willie Mays. Like
I know, yeah.
How much more pressure do you need?
It's true. Yeah, the point about it not being hard, I had actually never even considered that, but it makes perfect sense. The way that guy, you think about him hitting 74 home runs, that's like he probably saw 85 easy to hit pitches that whole season.
Because he was getting
easy
walked.
For him.
Like you already said, he was getting walked.
Yeah, and to your point that you made earlier, you might get one pitch per at bat. That you can actually hit, and he just hit them every time. So it probably was easy for him. It's like the baseball bat was like a tennis racket in his hands.
That's nuts though at that level, dude. Like I'd never experienced that, not even down to little league, even games where I was like, man, I was like I
know.
That's nuts. That is absolutely insane to be able to do that.
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've never seen a hitter like him. I don't think. Well, even before all the steroid stuff, he was already the best hitter.
Already a 400 guy. Like that's what's not like that guy had already done everything to get into the Hall of Fame. So
when he was with the Pirates, I want to say he won 6 Gold Gloves and like 3 Silver Sluggers, and was a 40-40 guy every year.
He's nuts.
Yeah, dude. I don't know if you'll ever see another player like him, honestly. And in this new era, if someone came close to touching that, they're just going to use the Bond strategy and intentional walk them. I mean, they're not even going to let them get to 70. I don't think.
Yeah, there are honestly times where I watch a game and it's like, I always go back to the Giants, but the Giants' biggest rivals, the Dodgers, and the guy that is consistently killing the Giants as the Dodgers, Max Muncy. Like this dude. Half of this fucker's home runs every season seem to be against the Giants. I'm like, why do you pitch to this guy?
Yeah.
Because, I approach it from 2 angles, right? As a fan, I want to see the best play the best, and I want to see what happens, right? But as a manager, I'm like, fuck that guy. He's not getting a chance to kill my team. He can go hang out on first base. So I respect both approaches. But, I'm like, every time Max Muncy comes up, that dude's going to hit a home run. Mookie Betts, same thing. Since he joined the Dodgers, I swear, every time that guy comes up, he crushes the Giants in key spots. Like he's just one of those dudes.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I go back 20 years ago to Bonds. I'm like, that dude got 232 intentional walks in one season, let alone overall, just from taking the at bat. And the dude, I think that year he still hit 46 home runs. Like the guy never had over barely 300 at bats. Like,
yeah,
that's insane, man. Like,
yeah, it's crazy. His numbers would be.
They're little league numbers. It's little league. Like if you were the best player in little league, that's the stuff you would think to see.
It's honestly, it's even better than that. Like it's like video game shit.
Yeah.
You know? Like, yeah, man. I don't know. Didn't they change the rule on intentional walks now where you can't do it anymore?
Yeah, well now you don't. Well, you can call for the intentional walk. You just don't have to do all 4 pitches. You just say it.
Oh, you just say, oh, that's not bad. Oh. Yeah. That's not a bad rule change. Like, why throw the stupid pitch?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I don't. Maybe there is another player like that out there somewhere. I don't know. It's kind of a little bit like John Jones, though. Like, actually, I want to make this one point first, and then bring up the John Jones thing because they tie together.
I really want to get with you on that.
So they did, to Bonds' credit, the media and baseball fans, they did absolutely railroad him on steroids. They totally did. Everybody was doing it. Everybody knew everybody was doing it. Yes, he was on growth hormone and all that. Yes, 100%. Yes, he committed perjury. Okay. But all those dudes were doing the same shit. You want to tell me Mark McGwire went from like 200 to 260 in like 3 years? Like all of a sudden he looks Popeye.
What's so weird about McGwire is that dude hit 49 home runs as a fucking rookie. Like,
yeah,
he was already pre-programmed to do it.
Like, same as Bonds. I mean,
yeah. Like these guys weren't you and I who just all of a sudden turned into a Hall of Fame player. Like that's not
right, exactly.
It works.
No, yeah, believe me, there were tons of guys taking steroids that never made it out of A ball.
I saw it in fucking college. Like, dude, yeah. All right, good luck. It happened. It didn't happen either.
Yeah, no, 100%. But they did railroad him on that, and so he's. And the whole asterisk stuff, it's like, dude, you're better off just putting an asterisk on the entire era.
Yeah, whatever. Just, it's stupid, man. It really is.
And so the John Jones tie.
Yeah, this is, I want to hear this.
They did the same thing, in my opinion, to John Jones on steroids. Yes, he was using PEDs, and yes, he lied about it, 100%. But so is 80% of the rest of the entire sport. It ain't just that guy. They're especially mad at guys like John Jones and Barry Bonds because they make an extremely difficult thing look easy.
Yeah.
And it pisses everybody off. It's like, well, I mean, it just is what it is,
Jones more than ever, I think, since his heavyweight. And I want to get your take on this because I think you and I probably agree on just about a lot of things, but for whatever reason, UFC, you and I think we don't quite see eye to eye on things, but and I would defer to you though on it because I know you've got a wrestling background. You're very well versed in this shit. And were you not like surprised / disappointed to see Gagne and just his performance against Jones? Like, were you because I'm not gonna lie, Braxton, I went into that fight thinking this is where Jones is finally going to fight someone, not just his size, but bigger, and he's going to fuck him up. And what the fuck happened?
Yeah, no, I did not think that. I thought it would look like, I thought it would look basically like it looked. Anytime
really?
You take
you thought that was going to happen with him finally fighting someone bigger than him?
I can show you DMs from before the fight.
I'm not. It's not that I'm doubting. No. I'm just curious why you thought that.
Here's why. Anytime you have a guy that was a national champion wrestler in college that just when he fought Daniel Cormier out wrestled him in a way that was embarrassing for Cormier, and I'm a fan of Cormier. I think he seems like a great guy. Like
really good, but he's small though compared to Jones, right? Is that not a factor?
Oh, he's way bigger than Jones. I mean, shorter, but he's way bigger. Like Jones wasn't cutting much to get to 205, and Cormier was walking around at like 260 and cutting down to 205. Yeah. But
Cormier both guys are special. But anyway,
yeah, Daniel. So anytime you see that happen, and then he's going to go in there and fight some dude at that level who's never even put on a singlet before, yeah, it's probably going to go that way. I mean, it just is what it is. Say, I honestly, a lot of people get bothered by this, but I think that the Gon fight and the Francis Ngannou fight are probably really similar. I think he does the exact same thing to Ngannou.
Really?
Ngannou's grappling. Yeah, I do. 100% I do. First of all, Ngannou's people lie for what? Because this guy had a tough life coming up.
You really did. That's
really tough.
Yeah, it's pretty.
And Americans have this weird thing where anytime a black guy has had a tough life, we have to like pretend that he's something that he's not on top of it. He's already great, but we try to pretend that he's actually better than he is. If you look at his technical ability as a striker, it ain't very good, dude. It ain't. He's on his front foot. His nose is over his toes all the time. He's reaching. When he closes the gap, he leads with his head. He does a lot of things really, really wrong. Now, he has, the touch of death.
He's just got very good power because he's 265 pounds of shredded fucking steel.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah. Listen, this is not me saying I'm going to beat this guy to fight.
No, I know. No, you're actually stating, this is the analysis of the guy, right? Which is
and so
fair. That's fair.
He has to go in and fight a really good wrestler who's rangy, is actually a little bit longer than him, and is really good with his kicks, keeping people out at range. The way he closes the gap with his head, his shoulders out in front of his feet, that's the easiest person to take down in the world. Jones just probably slips under, body lock, takedown, punches him until he doesn't want to be in there anymore. That's probably what happens. I just don't see that fight being as competitive as other people do. I really don't. In fact, I think the Stipe matchup is more competitive than.
Really?
Yeah, I do. Because Stipe is a good wrestler and his boxing technique is better. It's not that he doesn't hit as hard, but technically he's better than Ngannou. It doesn't mean he's a better fighter, but he's technically better.
Who was that dude that Jones fought? It's probably 4 years ago at this point, where it went to decision. I thought he lost.
Dominic Reyes.
Reyes, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was
Dom. Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was gonna say that was probably the only time I thought, like, without a doubt, Jones lost and got the benefit of the judges.
And people forget that fight was in Texas, though. And this is back before we had unified rules. So in Texas, they put an extra emphasis on octagon control. And even though Jones got outstruck in that fight, he was pushing Reyes back through the entire fight. So I don't know. It's hard to say that he lost that when you take that into account. Jones is a very smart fighter. He knows what the rules are, and he does just enough to win,
That's what's that's what's so frustrating, because I don't think Jones may be Barry Bonds in a way that it kind of goes back. Like, he's not likable from the mainstream, but man, you can't fucking beat this fucking guy, and all you want to do is see him lose. Like, that was me going into this fight at heavyweight. I'm like, he's finally going and I didn't bet it. I was so glad I didn't bet it, because I'm like, nope, I'm not gonna do it. But I was just so I just remember watching it. I'm like, I can't believe I paid $80 for this shit. And that's where I'm at with a lot of UFC right now. I was like, man, I almost talked myself in the butt, because for the long, like, dude, I just, man, I loved fucking Masvidal. Yeah. I just love his personality. I just think he just got hot too late in life, like too late in his career. He's just too old. And I can't remember what it was. I think I went to a game or something, but it kept me from buying this last pay-per-view. But something told me, like, there was no way he was going to beat this dude that he ended up fighting and losing. But I really wanted him to win, right?
Oh. Oh yeah, Burns, yeah.
Gilbert Burns, that's what it was.
Yeah, that's a tough matchup for Jorge.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's shorter. Burns, I think, is like, I know I know the weight class, but man, Burns is a big boy, man.
Yeah, he is.
Jesus, that dude just. I remember actually it was in Vegas when you were supposed to come out with us.
Yeah. Dodge that bullet.
Yeah, you just sure did. Good for you on that one. But I just remember, and I bet against Burns, and he ended up losing. But yeah, I just remember even where we were at, I was looking at Burns and like, man, that's a big fucking dude for 5'10".
Yeah, he's big.
That's a big boy. Like that dude is not 170. That dude
No,
is a large man.
Yeah,
Yeah. So, what do you think about now? Like, and I want to get you out of here soon. I have like 2 more questions for you, but we got Connor and who's the dude he's supposed to fucking fight? I keep forgetting.
Michael Chandler.
Yeah, Chandler, which I think Chandler has been nothing more than a disappointment since he got to the UFC, but whatever, he's going to fight Connor. How do you see that going?
That's a tough one because it's hard to know what to expect from Connor.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know.
Who fought that same night against Pettis and, broke his ankle, unfortunately.
Yeah. Yeah, and he changed his style up a lot for that fight, kind of went back to kind of a more traditional boxing stance. And I thought it was a bad idea for him. A lot of his openings were created by that kind of karate blitz stance that he would use. I think hopefully he goes back to something like that. If the Connor that fought Khabib, forget about the Connor that fought like Eddie Alvarez and stuff like that. If the Connor that fought Khabib shows up, it's going to be a very tough night for Michael Chandler. But Connor put on so much weight. He's a different athlete now. It's hard to have any idea what he's going to look like.
He hasn't fought in 2 years.
Yeah, and it's 3, I think. No, 2. You're right, 2.
Yeah, well, by the time he fights, it'll be almost 2.5, almost to like 2.25 at least. September.
Well, he's got to win the first fight with USADA, and then he gets to fight Chandler.
You got a good point because my brother's like, that dude's on fucking roids.
Oh man, yeah, GH too.
Man. Like at Connor's age, like, dude, I work out pretty fucking hard, and I can cut weight. What Connor's doing is the opposite. That's hard at that age, right? That's just hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm trying to get back over 200, and it's tough for me.
No, I'm the opposite. I'm out of the 200-pound club, and I'm not going back.
Yeah, where are you at? Like 195?
Yep, right at 195, 196. It depends. Yeah, I'd like to be back in the 180s, but I just don't think that's feasible for what I want to do. So I think like 193 to 195 is kind of my sweet spot. Yeah. If you're trying to get to 200, good luck, man. But I mean, you could do it. I can tell you how to get to there from what to eat, but performance wise, don't expect much.
Dude. Yeah. Dude, I was trying to figure out like why I was struggling other than just being old, but trying to gain. And I was like, dude, I'm eating, I downloaded an app to track all my calories, trying to keep my caloric intake really high. And then I put on an Apple Watch that Grandpa gave me to track, my shit. Yeah, it's cool. So I put that on for a day just to see how much I was burning. And I was freaking blown away, dude. My app had me eating, I want to say 4,500 calories. And when I put the data in from the Apple Watch into the app, it was like, you're going to have to up your intake to like 8,000 or some crazy shit like that. I can't remember. I can't even remember what the numbers were, but it was absurd. And I was like, bro, there's no way. I mean, I can only eat so many boiled eggs in a day, man.
I mean, without really knowing everything that you do and what your Apple Watch program would be, I would say, like going back to our conversation yesterday, you're like, oh, I was up on the fucking mountain and I got caught. Like if you're doing stuff like that, then honestly, yeah, I could see you burning easily 5,000 to 6,000 calories a day because that's not normal, dude. Right? Like a normal human being at our age, just being alive, like you're resting, whatever, probably 17 to 2,200 before you even do anything, right? That's probably normal. And you do some really strenuous shit. So yeah, I could see that, but without knowing what was programmed or put into the watch, I don't know, but I could easily see 6,000 calories just being like your normal now when you're doing like your horse breaking, your hiking, your hunting guiding, and all that shit. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's kind
And
of
that's a lot of
crazy,
food
man.
when you break it down. Like you don't think about it like that, but yeah, that's a lot of calories, man.
Yeah, it's a shitload if you're eating clean, which I don't, admittedly, haven't been doing very good the last month or so.
None
But
of us do, man. That's why we look like we do.
yeah, but when I was being really diligent about it, and then you add workouts in because obviously you got to lift to get bigger.
Yeah.
Start. Yeah, I mean your workout. I mean you're really not burning that many calories honestly in a workout, but like a weight routine, you're not. But I mean you burn some, but it's nothing like
Nothing
doing
like what
manual labor all
yeah,
day.
hiking through a fucking mountain, nothing close. Yeah. No.
Yeah. So yeah, it's kind of wild. And so you look at Connor and see where he's at. The other thing you have to factor in, dude, is how much is he partying? Because it seems like he's partying a lot. You know.
Dude, I've said this for a while. I just the circles that we've ran in back home, happen to know a lot of really affluent Irish people. Conor McGregor is not a very well liked person.
No, I know. Yeah, no, he's not.
He's spoken very lowly of, but yeah, I would say I would say that dude has been very fortunate because without that proper 12 deal, that dude may be broke right now, man. Because of what you described. Like remember when he showed up on that fucking yacht and like
Yeah,
during this
in
dude,
Dubai.
that's it's not sustainable, man. Like I'm glad you
No,
cashed a $600 million check from Proper 12, but I sure hope you're putting something away. But
no
yeah,
shit.
like and that's why the Irish that I'm talking about, they don't really think of very highly of him because he to them he personifies like trash becoming very wealthy and then returning to trash, and that's what they kind of see, which I think is interesting because I like that's his perspective I would never see because I'm not a fucking Irishman, right? So
Sure.
yeah, which I find interesting because in America, we take our heroes. Look, we just spent all this time breaking down Jones and Bonds, but yeah, maybe that's how they view Connor. Maybe they just don't really like him that much, which is
Yeah, I think so. I think you're right. I mean, you can't, you go to a pub and punch an old guy when you're the like
yeah. How
world
fucking
champ.
and there's video of it. You can't even deny it. Like, dude,
I know.
what's
Yeah.
wrong with you, man? Like, yeah,
Yeah, terrible behavior. And same thing, Jones is off his
yeah. He's
off
not
the
been.
field, so to
Yeah,
speak. It's not good, dude.
yeah,
It's bad.
yeah. I don't know if it wasn't Jones. It was somebody. I remember you and I kind of had a disagreement of, but like that's my
It
thing
was
with.
Jones.
Was it? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like the UFC is just, man. Okay. Last question, and I'm gonna let you get out of here because I know it's 10 o'clock my
Okay.
time. But no, so do you like where, um, because it seems like it's definitely changing very recently, the way Dana White's taking this. And I go back to what was the title fight we just had where they allowed one of the challengers to just hop in the fucking ring after the fight's over and just talk shit to him. I'm trying to remember who the fucking name.
Probably Sean O'Malley you're talking about that.
Yeah, yeah, that's perfect. Like, man, I love O'Malley. I would love to see him fight, but like, why are we letting this happen? Like, this dude just won the belt, and you're Dana White. He allowed this to happen. This isn't just
Oh
some shit
yeah.
that just, you know what I mean? So it's like, is he really following the boxing trend? Because I know he came up through boxing, or is he really is this just getting out of hand? Because
Well,
I mean,
first,
think about that in that moment, like, man, you're just trying to enjoy the fucking, you just beat, so
Cejudo.
yeah, who
Mm-hmm.
is like, by all accounts, he's probably the best in that division in history, and you just beat him. You want to
Yeah.
enjoy that. Now you got to deal with either this was prearranged or this is just spontaneous, and you're just left to like control your emotions in that moment. Like, to me, that's hard, man.
Well, it'd have to. I don't know about because this was in North Carolina, I believe, is where that card was. I can't remember where was that card.
I'm not 100% sure either.
Well, if it was in Nevada or Utah,
Where O'Malley's from, right?
no, I'm saying I'm thinking about commissions.
Okay.
'Cause I've only cornered in Utah, and I don't even remember if I actually cornered in Nevada. I don't think I did. So I guess I've only cornered in, but if it was, I'm sure that all commissions have similar rules. You would have to have approval from the commission to let someone else in the cage,
So it's orchestrated.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's just the commissioner at the gate, he would have to allow that person in. So Dana White would. It's definitely orchestrated. I don't think it's boxing necessarily, though. I think it's WWE shit. It's Vince McMahon type stuff.
Absolutely. And I don't like it, man. Like, I don't know how you feel, but to me, that just seems corny.
It is corny. I agree that it's corny. Hard to argue with the guy who built the UFC into a company that evaluated at $20 billion just a few months ago, though.
Jesus, that's insane. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, it's fighting, right? It goes back to what we talked about at the very core of this. It's like you either can fight or you can't. No one's gonna give a shit whatever persona you bring to the ring and how fucking funny you are or all that other talk shit like Connor did. But the biggest thing with Connor is like he was able to go in the ring and back it up, and that's all people care about. Because if you can't, you're just a funny dude who can't fight.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You might go be a comedian or something.
Yeah, there's a lot of funny dudes like that. That's me. I could be funny, but if I step in the ring with any of these dudes, I'm getting floored in 20 seconds.
Oh, yeah.
I would like to make it 20 seconds. Maybe that's what I could do. Maybe I could hit Dana. I'd be like, yo, bro, let me see if I can get 20 seconds on the undercard. What's up?
Dude, that's another thing I think we talked about baseball. The average fan does not understand the gap between them and the guy at the UFC level. They have no clue.
Not at all. Not at all, dude. Nope. Every dude in the fans at a major league game thinks they could step in that box and hit a fucking home run.
Yeah.
And they won't even see the ball. It's like, we can sit here and complain about Jones and Gagne or whatever, whatever his name is. But the dude who lost to Jones will absolutely end my life.
Oh, yeah. Right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. Right? Bro, the kid on the undercard that's like 5-5 in the UFC is gonna absolutely fuck up 99% of the world. I mean,
but also it's weight classes, right? Because I just saw this, and I don't know if you see this. So there's this dude, Clay Tabor, right? He's a former NFL player. He's in the media now, but he does a lot of coverage of the UFC, or not the UFC, but the NFL. But I guess for whatever reason, he felt like chiming in on the Cejudo and that fight. He's like, yeah, I'll absolutely fuck Cejudo up, and Cejudo responded. And I'm just like, okay, so you're 6'4", 250. Like,
you're losing that fight, dude.
But is that what you're like? Are you trying to be proud of that? Like, so what you're trying to say to your audience is you can beat up a 5'3", 340-pound man?
Yeah.
And you know what? Honestly, I'm with you. I would be I'd be like, I don't think that big dude knows what it's like to get punched in the face. And I already know that dude right? So he may be at a great physical advantage, but at the end of the day, I think if we're going rounds and we're going in like an actual fight, I honestly think the smaller dude will. Because do you think, Braxton, bro, dude, I'm 6 foot, I'm like 193, 195. I will not fuck with anybody in the UFC at any weight class. Above me, my weight class, below me, I maybe like a female 120 pounder. But do you think I'm fucking with the 135-pound champion of the world? That dude will fuck my world up.
Yeah, people really don't understand people got real. It's funny. People take my tweets out of context and then rage at what they say I said, not what I actually said. It happens a lot. It's kind of funny. People who've never done it, they really don't understand the weight class concept. It's like, bro, the weight class, it's not that it doesn't matter, but it matters when you have two skilled people. It matters a lot.
Absolutely.
When you have someone with no skills and someone with tremendous skills, it doesn't matter that much anymore. It's not nearly as big of a deal as people think. If you took Floyd Mayweather, he's like 140 pounds,
5'7". Tiny.
Yeah.
Not a big man if you saw him on the street.
No, you take that dude and put him in a boxing match. Obviously not fighting, because grappling changes the dynamic for a boxer. You put him in a boxing match with a dude who's never boxed before, that's like 6'4", 220. Dude, the 6'4" guy ain't winning that fight. It ain't happening.
No, not at all.
People they just don't get it. And it's not to say that the weight doesn't matter. Two average guys on the street, you got two people that are both untrained or, barely trained, then the weight class is going to matter a whole bunch, because you got two unskilled guys. It's going to matter a ton. But if you got two guys on the street and one's like a former amateur MMA fighter that still trains, and this other dude outweighs him by 50 pounds but has never fought a day in his life, the guy, I'll put my money on the former amateur guy all day long over the other guy.
All day. Yeah, it is an absolute. But that's what I thought. But I think that's a thing that's necessary, right? I think it's necessary because until you experience that, like I've told this story on Twitter. Like it was last summer, like around this time. No, it was last summer, so we're getting close. But yeah, man, like my brother, he's done mixed martial arts his whole fucking life, right? Like he's one of those guys that enjoys being punched in the face. That's not me. So last summer we, having a few bottles of wine or whatever, and I'm just like, I'm just gonna wrestle my brother. Like we went through my the table on the living room in front of the couch, and my brother managed to get my arm up like this and choked myself out with he's like, and he's like narrating what he's gonna do to me at the time. I'm like, no, you're not. I got this. I break the table. Like, all right, fuck.
Yeah,
right. But it goes back to what you're saying. Like, it's if you have the skills to do it, which I highly implore everybody to learn this shit. Right? That's something you can go do. Like, you don't have to have a great, amazing talent. No one's telling you to become the world champion in the UFC, but go learn how to fucking defend yourself. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, no, 100%.
And it's funny as people hit a curveball.
Yeah, right. It's funny as even this, what we just talked about, if certain people find it, they're gonna take it out of context too. It's hilarious. It's really funny. Like, no matter how much Roy from Weapon Outfitters had a great tweet. You can't, I'm gonna have to paraphrase it, but he was like, basically, Twitter's mass communication. So whenever you write a tweet, it could be misinterpreted in the most wild possible ways that you never even imagined, which is 100% true. Happens all the time. And this is not even talking about getting dragged for stupid shit. I say plenty of stupid shit, but bro. But it is a funny place. I don't know. You just have to laugh it off and be like, okay, you guys can go rage at that all you want. And
no, you're right. But I feel like we've dropped several hours worth of knowledge here, so that's great.
Okay, bro.
Yeah. So Braxton McCoy, you can follow him. Braxton McCoy on Twitter. He's got the Bunkhouse. How can they find you on that?
Bunkhouse.braxtonmccoy.com. Okay. And that's just all we do. Like, that's another thing people like, if they think it's like a masculinity thing. We never talk about masculinity. We just take people to shoot and learn med skills and shit like that. So there's no masculinity, bro.
Hang out and improve yourself, right?
Yeah.
So he's got that, and then he also has his own podcast, which you can hear him at is the Braxton McCoy podcast, right?
Yeah. Yep. It's anywhere where there are podcasts. Pretty infrequent uploader, but
I mean, I enjoy them. Every time I drive, that's all I do. I just listen.
I appreciate it.
I do Braxton and I do Joe Rogan. That's about it. I
definitely got to get you.
My wife was like, "Do you listen to yourself?" I'm like, "Fuck no. Why would I listen to myself?
Oh, yeah,
idiot, as I ramble through this shit. Why would I want to listen to it a second time? No, absolutely not. I've never listened to any podcast I've ever done. So if anyone hey, do you remember when you said this? No, I don't, because I have no idea what I've said.
Right. Yeah, I hear you, man.
All right, brother.
Okay,
so
we'll
that's
have to get
Braxton
you on.
McCoy at Braxton McCoy, and you can find him on the Bunkhouse, as he said, and then find his podcast, Braxton McCoy, on all of those great podcast hosting sites. All right, brother. Thank you.
Okay, I appreciate it, bro. Thanks.